Whoops, phone fell down. Look at Ruby. Look at that sweet dog. Keep her off there for right now. Hello, happy Tuesday to you. I'm sorry, Thursday to you. Happy Thursday, everybody. Let me take off the background real quick here. I had Ruby's picture up here. There we go. Good day. Have a really special treat for everybody today. This is something I did not announce, but it's going to be a surprise. Everyone's been asking me about a certain someone, so the certain someone's going to be a guest here. So, should be fun. Hell, hey, thanks for supporting me, Enos MD2. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Hello, how are you today? Good to see you. I don't know if anybody made it on last night for the interview we did with Diane Sayre, but I thought that went really well. I mean, I thought those of you who got a chance to listen to Diane probably, were pretty impressed with her as I am. It's funny because most people don't know what the LaRouche movement is. It's a very sort of marginalized thing in United States history, and people kind of had talked him into a corner as far as being a fringe human being. And like any other political person, I don't agree with everything Lyndon LaRouche said. If you don't know who he is, you can look him up. LaRouche, Larouche. But that's politics, right? You can look at pieces of what someone believes in and say, okay, I agree with those 3 or 4 things, and maybe 5 or 6 I, not so keen on, and that's okay, right? And I think the point we're trying to get across is, what are the outcomes we're seeking, right? And who can best get us closer to those desired outcomes? That's really all I care about. That's politically being pragmatic, and that's what I try to do. The political system, let's face it, it's got a ton of headwinds and a ton of problems with the money and all the influence and all, blah, blah, blah. There was an undercover audio tape that just came out. I don't know if you heard it. It was a Republican senior member of the Republican apparatus in Arizona talking to former Governor Kari Lake about, she has political ambitions within the Republican Party, the MAGA movement. I'm not saying I support that or not, but I do respect her in one way, and that is she's committed to what she wants to do. Somebody was basically trying to offer her money not to run for office. Basically saying, hey, we're willing to give you whatever you need. What's your number? And just take a break is what they said. Take a break. And, yeah, anyway, whatever you want to say about Kari Lake, she ran for governor. Well, I got to check my facts. Yeah, good point. But anyway, Kari Lake is a prominent figure in the political scene, in the Arizona political scene, for those who don't know who she is. I happen to like her. Not that I believe in her policies or politics, just as a person. I kind of like her style and her approach, and I think she's a smart woman. Whether you like her politics or not, I don't really care about that. But the point I'm trying to raise is that somebody tried to bribe her. So the fact that somebody openly tried to bribe her, and she even said, I won't do it for $5 million, $10 million, $20 million. I won't do it for $1 billion, because this is bigger than money. This is about the future of our country. And, I respect anybody who has those sort of convictions, right? That's better than all the other people who sell out for money. So good for her. Anyway, that recording, I have a copy of the video that came out that was, showing that recording. I'll probably put a video together or pass it along in some form or another. So, but we do have a special surprise for everybody today. It's going to be somebody coming on as a guest, probably in about another 25 minutes or so, hopefully if the timing works out. And it'll be fun. It's nice to have guests come up and enjoy everything. Sam, just a second. I usually don't bring up guests quite right away. If you want to wait in the queue, you're welcome to. I usually yammer for, 15 minutes or so if you're used to my show while people filter in. But welcome. Do me a favor. If any of you are coming in for the first time and you've never seen this particular face before, you're like, who the hell is this dude? Can you please type the number 1 in the chat? Because I don't want to waste the audience's time with telling people my story unless they're new. And if there's nobody new, I won't waste your time with that. So yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for liking the live. And by the way, while we're doing that, if you can please tap on my head. I still have this little mark on my head from the dog accidentally. If you can tap on my head to like the live, please. And then if you can also, this is something I didn't know till recently. If you go up to this little heart right below my face, or you can even hold down the screen by my face, a list of your friends will pop up, or your mutuals. And then, yeah. So yeah, you'll be able to invite people. That was the guest checking in really quickly. Yeah. So you can actually invite friends. So if you don't know what's going on TikTok and other platforms, people like myself who are outspokenly critical of Israel or maybe quote unquote pro-Palestinian, we're getting our reach is being severely restricted. So, for example, normally when I first started on TikTok and I was a nobody, which I probably still am, they would broadcast your lives out to anybody in your group, like your followers and maybe on the For You page. Well, that's over with. Not even all my followers get notified anymore. Maybe some do, a handful. In fact, a lot of people that come onto the live say, hey, I didn't know you were going live. I just happened to go to your page and saw you were live, or I had to search you out. Now, I do have a regular schedule to try to get around this so people know when I'm going live. So I try to go every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, and then every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from 12 noon to 2 like we're doing today. So I don't know, that's all I can do to get around it, but there's a significant effort, as you probably know, in the whole social media landscape to control stuff, for lack of a better term. So we need to do what we can to try to work around that. I know it's not the best situation to find ourselves in, but again, when have the odds ever been stacked in favor of the Palestinian people? Never, right? So it's just another brick on the pile of oppression, right, so to speak. We have 3 people in the guest queue. I will be bringing some folks up shortly here. What I'll probably do is bring up a few guests. Hey, everybody. And then we have a special guest that's coming on around 12:30 Eastern time approximately. And when that guest shows up, I'm going to have to empty the queue and let that person come on. They have limited time and limited availability. So in the meantime, we can chat a little bit. You know, I was watching a live before I came on here. I often scroll through a lot of lives. In fact, I show up at a lot of them unexpectedly for people. But it was one where a really, conscientious, kind, very patient person who's, I guess they have Palestinian family members, was trying to explain to somebody who was an American who's very pro-Israel, and just very politely but one by one methodically dissecting the programming and propaganda about all the historical inaccuracies that this person has been given to substantiate what's happening in Palestine, with, not calling it an occupation, just right on down the line, every fact you can probably imagine, including what happened in 1948, which is never how the Israelis portray it. It's just what's discouraging to people like me, and maybe to people like you, is that there's such a widespread, intentional way of spreading disinformation to give people the different impression. I think most people are pretty decent at their core, and they don't really want to think good or bad about anything until they kind of have an angle. And if you're given all the wrong information or all the inaccurate information as you grow up, and then anything that challenges that seems like it's wrong, right? So their sense of right or wrong kicks in that regard, instead of their initial sense of right or wrong being given all the facts to make a determination. And therefore, people get swayed to one side or the other. It happens all the time in our country with all sorts of issues. So it's not unusual, but it is unfortunate that it happens. And this is the thing about human beings that's so fascinating. We're like a blank computer. We're like a blank slate when we're born. And, our culture and our family and our education and all those things that influence us, the media, the different forms of entertainment that we go to, all of our life experiences, they shape us accordingly, right? We're not good or bad. We have the potential for either or. And it kind of fascinates me to see what drives somebody to do things that are good or bad in their life. And I can look at my own life just to forget about anybody else, just to kind of do my own introspection. And I've done things in my life that have not been good, in my opinion, all the time, for a long period of time, as far as pursuing things that I was taught to pursue, like money and wealth and success, what do you want to call that shit. And looking back, I feel like, and I'll probably look back on my life right now in 10 years, if I'm lucky to make it that far, and say some of the same things, like, oh, I was off in this, as we often do, right? You look back and you're like, man, how did I do that? So we all have that. And so the question is, what led me as a human being to go that route versus maybe another route? And what changed my lane? Like, why am I in a different lane now than I was then? So these are all interesting things to look at, psychology and the human condition and societies. This is all stuff that fascinates me. So I find it very interesting. So now I'm living in my kitchen trying to be famous. Trust me, this has nothing to do with wanting to be famous. I could give a shit. What I do want to do, if it's possible, is to reach people with accurate information as best I can. And as I learn new stuff, adjust and share it accordingly. That's it. What I would like to be able to do, as I've said before, I've been very transparent. Eventually everybody has to pay their bills. So to the extent that I can, cover my basic numbers to survive, I guess I have to do that. But that's about the extent of it, And so I'd like to do things like I've done this in my past. I don't know if you saw my bio on my bio on Uber. I put in that I've rescued cat. I used to work with a cat rescue group, and I still rescue animals if I see them and they need help. That's just something that inspires me. In fact, the one thing that got me the most upset, not that I don't care about the civilians who got harmed on the 7th, but the first video that I saw from the ground with the H group fighters going in is there was a black Labrador coming towards one of the fighters, and you can imagine what he did. And that really broke my heart because I hate seeing animals get hurt. You know, it's just really, I don't eat meat. I don't eat animals. So, you know, I don't like to. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not a patsy. I understand that nature involves predator-prey relationships. I'm not saying the world is Bambi. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an idiot. But I just like to try to do the least amount of harm as possible. That's kind of my thing. And, you know, everyone do what works for you. I did differently for most of my life. So, but it just reached a point where I just couldn't look myself in the mirror. I'm like, who are you? You say one thing and you're doing another. Like, that's cognitive dissonance, right? So anyway, we do have a couple guests. I'll tell you what I'll do. People are filtering in. Didn't seem like anybody here is new, so thank you for the regulars for coming back. If you didn't make it last night, though, I want to share with you what happened last night. We had a live from 8 to 10 p.m., and we had a very special guest. I had been promoting it pretty heavily in my videos. Her name is Diane Sayre, and Diane is an independent candidate for the U.S. Senate in the state of New York. And I happen to have met Diane a couple times at different peace rallies. I saw her at the March for Gaza, so I went up and talked to her, and then we arranged to get together last night, which was great. So for those of you who caught it, I'm glad you did. For those of you who didn't see it, I've uploaded the recording to my YouTube and my Rumble channels, and it's in the description. It says, you know, lively discussion with Senate candidate Diane Sayre. So if you want to get to my YouTube or Rumble channels, there's a link in my main bio page where you can click on it and it'll take you to my YouTube and Rumble. If you don't know what Rumble is, Rumble's another version of YouTube owned by a different company. It's a little newer, so it doesn't have quite the depth of content, but they also don't interfere with content creators as much as YouTube does as far as like demonetizing or taking stuff down. So is Diane Republican? No, Diane's not a Republican. Diane's an independent candidate. So she doesn't affiliate with either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. She comes from a background of supporting a candidate back in the 80s named Lyndon LaRouche. And while I'm not a LaRouche supporter per se, enough of what has brought Diane from where she was as she was growing up to where she is today are things that I think most of us would agree with, like, you know, get money out of politics and to have a different financial system that doesn't only benefit the rich. And we have to basically stop fighting all these wars. So however you want to slice it and dice it, you can call it whatever name you want. All I care about is that we have those outcomes. So that's why I had Diane on there. And so we'll probably get together again at some point. You know, she's busy, obviously. When you're running for Senate, it's a lot of work. But for those of you who did see Diane and you didn't get a chance to support her candidate, I'll just let you know where you can go. So her website is called Sayre for Senate, SAREFOR Senate, Sayre for Senate. And if you do /donate, you can give something. I gave her a nice donation because they need every penny they can get. Remember, she doesn't have the corporate money. She doesn't have the APAC money. She doesn't take any of that garbage. She's all funded by people like you and I, as any good candidate should be, right? And the system needs to change, right? There's no reason why somebody should get all this corporate money and all these special interest group money and allow them to advertise and have staffs of 50 to 100 people to go out and go door to door. It's unfair. Right? It's not democracy anymore. It's who can spend the most money, right? It's the best democracy money can buy, which is the wrong way to do it. So I know I bounce around a lot. Maybe that's the thing you either love or hate about me, but I'm all over the place. So yeah, okay, I tell you what, our guest is coming here in about 15 minutes. We have a couple people in the queue. We have Jax and Sam. I'll bring them up while we wait for guest.
I just wanted to do a mod announcement. So if you ever see me, it's just for like a mod announcement. First off, because I don't want to catch you while you're in discussion. Chip, you didn't update your subscription goal. It's still at from last night.
Oh, did it reach?
Yeah, I reached. It went 3 over. So thank you to all the subscribers. You have 53 subscribers. You had like an additional 12 subscribers last night. So that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Everybody please everybody please tap the screen, join team. You know, if you go on the top, you'll see his username. You tap that orange heart, that yellow heart, however, golden heart, and you get to join his team. It costs 1 coin, and you get to engage, and that's that's what TikTok loves. Please share out this live. Please always remember to mention people in the comments, and then this way they could ask questions, so you don't have to really necessarily jump on the panel. And please make sure that we stay on topic, and also don't forget that no over talking each other, but absolutely subscribe, because and yes, in the poll that I always put up has information on where to contact Chip, his times that he's usually live, and one great idea, Chip. If I don't know if you ever wanted to do something, but like I have to teach you how to do like banners and stuff like that across. So this way you have like a topic, and it's like a banner that goes across your screen, and then this way you could be like, this is what you're speaking of today. You know what I mean? Like your stance. So then nobody just jumps up and says, hey, I want to talk about blah. You know what I mean? Like you have a mindset, and this way you can stay on there on that topic. And you could always tell like a mod or something like that. And we could keep resharing it in the comment section saying, hey, this is the topic of the day. Let's stay on it. Let's not bounce around. It's
Sure.
easier for you, I think, so if ever, yeah, it's like a little banner. I'll teach you about that different time. I don't want to take up your time, but definitely please update your subscriber goal, and don't forget to also place in like a little gift goal on the top, because you're doing amazing. I mean,
Can you just, Jax, can you remind me how to, I mean, I hate to say this, I'm so ignorant, and I
it's all
apologize
right.
for it. Some of the things you're asking me to do, I don't know how to do. So what do I do to make that? Do I hit the things that start a new goal?
Yes, exactly. You start a new goal, and it'll ask you which one do you want. It'll say gift and a subscriber goal. So update your subscriber goal.
It says manager goal swan. That's what it says here. I'm not sure what it
That's
is.
the gift goal, and that's
Okay.
for your swans. That's like for people who want to send you something. But if you the other one is a subscription goal.
So I'm looking at the only thing I see right now. It says just manage your goal. Do I have to delete the one that says swan goal to get to the other stuff? Because I
You
don't
could
see
do
anything
that.
that
Yeah,
says.
you could absolutely do that. And then you could always, because it's not really a big it's you could always add that. It's not that big of a deal. But the subscription goal we would like to have, because the fact is you are giving your time, and for I believe it's $5.99. It's that's all for an entire month, and I think Chip absolutely deserves it. And
Could I just say one thing really quickly? Because people probably don't know this, and I really appreciate the help and suggestions. So, as kind as it is for everybody to donate here through TikTok, I just want to make sure you know this because a lot of people don't, nor did I. TikTok, when you donate $1, they keep 70 cents of that dollar. So only 30 cents of that dollar that you subscribe with. If you spend $6, for example, they keep $4.20 of the $6, which I think is very high. That's their company. They can do what they want. But that's why in my link tree, I have other donation links, including one which is called Patreon. I'm sure we've heard of that. And that's just a simple $5 per month donation. And I keep like 98% of that.
that's
So
wonderful.
that's why I prefer, if you're going to give, which I will, by the way, thank you so much. I know it's more convenient to hit the gold star here, but if you can just jump to my link tree and do it there, it makes a big difference over time. It's, 70% versus 2% is a big difference in what somebody takes from your money.
So that's why, like, we'll teach you. We could do like a, how do you want to call it? Like a silly live, just like to play, like no topic live, and then
Yeah,
this way I
yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
probably try to teach you like how to do it. That type of
Yeah.
thing. A different day, like off subject type of live, because I want to teach you how to do the banner across. So this way you could have a banner that says "Visit my link tree for that kind of stuff," and it'll just
Sure.
direct. You don't have to keep saying it. You know what I mean?
Are you around later today so we can do it today?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Like Nichelle, she loves to help me too, because I've been running around this app trying to help everybody all at one time. So Nichelle's been amazing. Savannah's been amazing. So yeah, I could actually call them up. I mean, contact them and see if they're available, and I'll DM you.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that
Yeah,
sounds
absolutely.
wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate the help. So let's reconvene on that maybe in about an hour and a half or so. Does that sound
Okay,
good?
take your time. But everybody, please, while you have the chance, keep sharing it out, and please do tap on that because this is, I'm going to reiterate it. This is a battle app. I don't know if you people understand that. Like they like team members and engagement. If you don't have team members and engagement, they tend to shadow ban you. All right, but other than that, I mean, you guys have been amazing. Your comments, your engagement, the fact is that we even started bringing up the team to you guys, and you guys immediately jumped on it. Um, you're an amazing panel, and then the chat has been fantastic. Have a great day, Chip. I'll talk to
Thank
you
you
soon.
so much, Jax. I really appreciate your help. Yeah, it goes to show you how clueless people like me are about some of this stuff. And it's embarrassing, right? You'd think that somebody like me who's a content creator would know all this stuff, and I just don't. So it's every day is a new learning experience for everything, but especially here. This app has so many little intricacies to it. So in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to have our special guest. For those who don't know, I'll let the cat out of the bag. People probably can guess. It's going to be Quinn, the Eskimo, coming in from Cairo, Egypt, to be on the live. And I'm not sure exactly when he's going to check in. He's got a lot going on, but he'll at some point. He said about 12:30 p.m., which is about I think 7:30 or 8:30 p.m. their time. So let's do this, and I do have the format set up with just me and one person next to me. So let's bring up Sam. Until then, when Quinn comes, I'm going to have to drop, just so you know. See if Sam can come up. Are you up, Sam?
Hello, Chip. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
My name is Khalid. I am from Jordan, but originally my mother is Palestinian. If you don't mind, I want to tell you a little bit of a story.
Well, here's the thing, Sam. Just, I mean, Khalid, I'm happy to hear your story. It's just that we may have very limited time given the fact that we have a guest coming. So if you can keep it, below a
Won't
minute
be
or so, I
long.
can do it.
It won't be long.
Sure.
When I grew up and I was in the school, like 6 and 7 and 8 years old, I only remember those two planes coming from Palestine, and they would make this sound like bombardment, and they broke the glass of the school. There was a psychology to intimidate all the region. There was a psychology in place. And, we grew up that this is a powerful state beside us occupying Palestine, and they can kill any one of us and alive any one of us anytime they like. And there is no sovereignty of a country would protect you whatsoever, whether in Jordan, in Syria, in Lebanon. That's how it is. And the Palestinians inside were left for their destiny. Whenever they want, they prison them, they torture them, they rape them, and they unalive them anytime. And they do that regularly to the Palestinians. And we have camps in Jordan. So when you go from Irbid, my city, to Amman, you will see the camps in front of you. So you feel the defeat. They want you to feel this defeat. And then I joined the PLO, and I saw my friends being unalived. I was injured. And I saw the camps as well. And these camps were, some genocide committed in Sabra and Shatila. And I remember it perfectly. And now we are seeing the genocide committed against Gaza and in the West Bank, who people don't talk about it. They want us to understand that it's okay. We are going after the H group, and it is okay to eliminate them, to unalive them. But the H group are Palestinians, and they are freedom fighters, and it is not okay to unalive them. No one said that. No one would say that. Everybody wants to say that Israel has the right to self-defense. How come? If you go to the case of the war, which the ICJ ruled on, there is no right to self-defense for occupying power, first of all. Secondly, they talk about all the time about children and women. What about men? What about fathers and grandfathers that they are unalive? They like to categorize us, and they put us in categories. And in this way, they manage the wording of things. So it is another psychology. However, what is happening in Gaza is like a awakening call for the whole world. And I see the interconnectedness between the people of the world, especially the young people. I am not young anymore. I am an old man. And I lost so much, and I didn't see my family for the past 32 years. That is one of the biggest loss. And I see that the people, the young people, they want to see their families. They want to resort to their fathers and their mothers to seek wisdom, to ask for answers, because they don't have confidence with governments and institutions anymore. Chip, thank you very much for allowing me and giving me the space.
Would you mind coming? Listen, I want to give more time because your story is very, enthralling. I think the audience would agree. I can hear the emotion in your soul. Would you like to come back and talk some more at some point? I hope you'll come back. Would that be okay?
This is who I am. I am Khalid Kasami. I am a doctor of international law in the University of South Africa.
Okay.
Those are my people, my social fabric in South Africa who went to the ICJ. They are motivated by Ubuntu culture. Ubuntu, which means patopele, people first. Ubuntu means that I am because of you. I wouldn't have an existence if you are not existed. Ubuntu, that is a culture of the beautiful South Africans and the way they restored their country after the 1996 with champion of
You have to do this. I
restorative
apologize.
justice.
The other guest is coming on right now. I apologize. I have to bring him up. I do
Quinn,
want to
I
have
respect the Quinn as well so much, and I like to hear him. So we
great.
come again, my brother.
Yes,
Thank
please
you,
come
my
up.
brother.
Please come up. I appreciate you. Yeah, I really want to hear more of that story. That sounds amazing. And I just got a message that Quinn is about to jump on with the live. So as soon as he comes in, we'll talk to him. And then I'd like to continue that conversation that was just there. Wow, that was powerful, right? That's what it's all about, is seeing people that are trying to take action to make a difference. So yeah, please come back in. Exactly. In fact, I want to follow. Let me see if I can follow that person. I hate when I don't follow somebody like that. Here we go. Let me see if I can follow him. There we go. I just followed you back, so we should be able to connect with each other, no problem. So I just got a message from Quinn saying that he's about to try to connect in, so that's why I'm holding the floor open for him for a moment or two. But in the meantime, this is the thing. There's so many people that are around the world that have. This is the thing that bothers me the most about the Israelis, the Zionists, that make these broad sweeping claims like those Arabs and they like to play in the dirt. They can't build anything. They have no clue that there are extremely well educated, smart, culturally enriched human beings that are just being prevented to achieve their full capability because of what the occupation and the blockade does to change the ability of people to affect their own self-determination. It's so arrogant. It's so rude. It's so condescending. It's so superiority driven. And it's all too prevalent, unfortunately, in the Israeli society, even for those who claim to be moderates. They still have this sort of air of superiority. And this is not me saying this, by the way. This is Haaretz columnist Gideon Levy made that observation. He said it's sort of the unspoken secret. So, hope they didn't mess the live up too much. I had to go ahead and send him a text message. Yeah, exactly, Fafa. I'm going to. I couldn't agree more. It pained me that particular guest came up when he came up because I want to have him back in because it was a great story, right? I was glued to the monitor like you all are too. And his voice sounded, amazingly, I don't know. It's almost like a movie, like you're watching a movie or something. It was really good. Somebody says, I sent you proof that they knew about all of this centuries ago. I'm not sure what you mean by all of this. You mean as far as the capabilities of people who are from historic Palestine? Maybe that's what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, people who say there was no Palestinian anything. So I have to try to send Quinn an invite just a second. I don't know how I can do that here because I don't see him on the list. And he's saying he can't find me. Let me think for a second here. Let me put on my thinking cap because my brain is not working at the levels it needs to make this. So how do I invite somebody if they're not in my list here to my live? Anybody know how I do that? I gotta remember how to do that. So he's saying he can't find me. Let me see how you share a live with somebody. I think you click on the guest button, and these are for viewers, but let me see if there's other people on this list that I can send it to. Here it says friends not watching it, and I don't see Quinn online here. Here it is, Quinn the Eskimo. I just found him. There we go. I just invited him. So hopefully he will come through that invite. And then we'll have Quinn up here to talk to, which will be great, by the way. I haven't connected with him for, I don't know, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks, I guess it's been. Maybe longer. So yeah, I just sent him an invite. So hopefully he'll pop up here in a second. But yeah, this is the thing about technology. So of course, Quinn and I always joke that we're both in our 50s, and it's not the easiest thing for some of us. Somebody says he's doing his own live right now. So let me see if I can find him on the host list of other lives. No, I don't see him as an active live right now. Trying to see if I can find him in the list of hosts here. I did send an invite to him to join as a guest, though. So I'm not really sure what else I can do. Yep, there, I sent an invite to him. Hopefully he'll pick it up, if at all possible. Yeah, usually if you this happened with Diane and I did a test run yesterday. So what you're supposed to be able to do on TikTok, if I go live and somebody who I'm mutual friends with goes live, then there's a little button in the left-hand corner that says hosts. You tap that, and then anybody else who's also live, you should be able to merge the lives with that. And that normally should work, but it's never worked since I've tried it. I've seen other people pop up. Yeah, I'm guessing he can't see my invite because I tried to bring him in. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be able to do to connect this, but hopefully eventually we'll get it done. Let me just make sure he knows. Well, as far as I don't want to bring up any other guests while we're trying to, he'll just come up. You're not going to have to go off the panel. You can wait your turn. It's just I'll bring him up ahead of you. Somebody says I look half awake at best. Welcome to my life, bro, or ma'am, whoever said that. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I haven't even had coffee yet today. I'm usually only a third awake, and I don't know. That's a funny state. Listen. By the way, for those of you who don't know me that well, I love it when people take digs at me because I find it entertaining. So most people get upset. It actually gives me a great smile. So thank you for that. Because listen, if you're going to dish it out, you have to be able to take it, right? And I dish out my fair share of criticism. So thank you for that. That made my morning. Thank you. No, I think you have to have 200 followers in order to go up as a guest on a panel, and you have to have 1,000 followers to go live yourself. Those are the only thresholds I'm aware of. Yeah, I sent him an invite. Here he comes. Yay!
Finally appeared.
Hey, all right.
How are you?
Great
Good
to
to
see
see you, my friend.
So,
Good
so
to-
I was just joking with the audience that these are two dudes over the age of 50. You have to have very low expectations, right?
I was saying the same thing. Like, dude, we always do this, man. It always takes us like 10 minutes to fucking find each other because we're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
Can
Meanwhile,
you share your families, the family in Gaza's GoFundMe? We're going to talk about that, actually. We're going to talk about the GoFundMes, but let me say hi to Chip first. So remind me to talk about that, Chip. So
I will. I promise.
good to see you, brother. It's been so long. My gosh. Yeah. And forgive my Wi-Fi service. I don't have great Wi-Fi here, so I could go in and out, but hopefully it's working. So
No worries. So I'm just curious to know, like, where are you and what's been your normal day to day? I'm really curious to hear, like, what's going on. Like, what's up?
yeah. Yeah. So I'm in Cairo still. And I'm living in a section called Maadi, which is greetings from Phuket, Thailand. I used to live there too. Nice. Welcome. Wait, Taste and Travel. You mother, I know you. Oh my gosh. Good to see you. That's so funny. This is a guy I used to travel with from South Africa. Anyway, so I'm here in Maadi, and basically I'm living with my friend Jen. She's also from America. She's from Montana, and we kind of hit it off. So we're rooming together right now. And then there's 3 or 4 other ones that are around here. We basically hang out every day and we work. And so our day to day, basically, it kind of differs. Like we've got a team now, I think of like, I don't know, 145 people here on the Cairo team. A lot of these are Egyptians, the local Egyptians, and then a lot are foreigners who've come in from all over the place, right? So basically what we're doing is we're doing different stuff. Everybody's working on, we've got about 9 or 10 different projects right now we're working on. Everybody's kind of working on that. And then we kind of get together in small groups depending on like what project you're working with. And we do that. So, and then basically a lot of what I do, honestly, every day is I answer everybody's messages. I get, hundreds and hundreds of messages a day. The people say, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Do you know about this? Do you know about this? Can you connect me with this or whatever like that? And so honestly, that's a lot of what I do because I've now been here for 10 weeks. I know pretty much everybody in town. I know all the NGOs, the INGOs, the ERC. I'm connected with a lot of these people and just a lot of other people. Like there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of displaced Palestinians that are here in Cairo. That were either here like beforehand, most of them were here beforehand, came for either medical procedures or school or just travel or whatever really. And then October 7th happened, they got stuck. They've just been here this whole time, right? So we're working with that community a lot too. Yeah. I can't hear you right now.
Quinn, yeah, so people in the chat are asking, should I follow Quinn? Is he good like Chip? First of all, absolutely you should follow Quinn. So,
don't follow Quinn. He's a bad guy.
for those of you who are in here, by all means, please press on Quinn's box and follow him because I'm telling you, he's like he's the OG when it comes to advocating. I came in after Quinn, so he's the leader of the pack, and he's, by the way, he's taking he's putting his energy where his mouth is. He's actually traveled down to, let's just tell people this. Quinn was challenged by somebody in the notes based on one of his videos. This is the backstory. He was in the United States. He was doing some pet sitting and traveling, domestically up in the Northeast. So somebody said in the comments something snarky like, you wouldn't last 5 minutes if you went to Gaza there. Yeah. So he reached out to people who he had met through his online journey, and they said, sure, we'd love to welcome you down here. So he's like, all right, dude, I'll match that and one up you by traveling down there, brother. So he did. Now, nobody can get into Gaza because of all the problems we know about, but Quinn and most others have gone to Cairo, Egypt, or the vicinity and tried to stage, pack non-perishables into trucks, as well as meet other people to coordinate so that if and when things do open up, he can help drive as much of that aid to the people along with some other things he's done. So that's Quinn's backstory. I'm going to shut up and let you continue.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, man. And somebody asked me today, they're like, no offense, I don't mean any insult, but like, what are you doing there? Like, what do you hope to accomplish? And like, what are you doing in Egypt? I was like, great question, man. Like, and I think a lot of the issue is like, most of the people who follow me and are interested in this subject didn't really know me before October 7th because I was a travel creator. I didn't really talk about a lot of this stuff. I just a travel creator, right? And so basically I just had some time off. Like I had a month off and I was like, well, fuck it. I could go to the beach in Costa Rica or I could go back to Thailand or whatever, or I can go to Gaza and see if there's anything I can do. And so honestly, this is my only purpose in coming. It's just like, come, see what I can do to help. Like I felt powerless just like everybody else. Like, what can I do to help? I don't know. I'm going to go there. And at least I thought I can bring some humanity. I can be like, hey, I can show my face and be like, hey, there's a white dude in America who gives a shit about you people. I mean, if that's all I can do, that's all I can do, right? And then when I got stuck here, it just kind of, the rest of this stuff just happened on its own. I started to get the lay of the land. I started to make connections. I started to figure shit out. So people would ask me questions. And then I had this whole team of volunteers that came in. So I'd ask them and we just figure shit out. And so now, honestly, the biggest thing we do is we connect other people in organizations. That's what we do on a daily basis. We just solve problems. People say, I need to, get this person out. I need to get this medics into this person. I need to do this. I need to do that. Look, that's all we do, man. Honestly, we're not even an organization. And people have said, well, you should become an organization. We're like, no, we have no intentions of becoming an organization. We're just some people who love other people. And we'd rather amplify the voices of the organizations that already exist. And check those out. So, that's kind of what we do. And our projects that we're doing, they've just come to fruition. They've just come on their own. There are things that need to happen. Like we just started the Displaced Palestinians project where we're creating care packages for the displaced Palestinians, trying to help with rent, trying to help with medical expenses, legal shit, everything like that. So we just work on whatever comes our way and people need help with. And then we try to find different authentic NGOs or INGOs that can actually assist, connect them with that, and that kind of stuff. Because our group doesn't touch money. We're not an NGO, right? So everything we do, we have to drive through different NGOs or whatever. So that's a lot of what we do, man, on a daily basis. Right now, our three big projects basically are, we're now sending in aid trucks. And I can explain that. I know everybody has a lot of questions about the aid trucks being backed up at the border. Let me give you the scoop. So basically you have different groups sending in aid trucks. Okay. You've got the aid trucks that are going in through the government of Egypt, and those all come through the funnel of the ERC, right? The Egyptian Red Crescent. Nobody gets in without the Egyptian Red Crescent. And so they're basically giving the rules to these INGOs, and then to the NGOs, so on and so forth. Everything goes through Egyptian Red Crescent, which is the representative to the government, right? And obviously they're having to deal with the Israeli restrictions, right? Most of what they're doing is passing on the Israeli restrictions, right? Okay. And then you also have the military, which is also sending in supplies, right? And so we've connected with a group that works through the military, and they're sending in supplies. So they have some different parameters. They can get things in a little bit differently, that kind of stuff, right? And so the organizations we're working with first that go through the ERC. Number one, we're working with the ERC. They're the best suited to be able to consistently get this stuff in there, and they know all the rules and so on and so forth, right? The other organizations we're working with, there's two that are working together called the Life Foundation and Al Khair, which are phenomenal organizations. If you want to donate to those, you can hit the link in my bio. You can also volunteer to come and help us pack these trucks. We're there every day. So these are great organizations. These are the Al Khair one is, and the ground crew here is run by Gazans, which is amazing. So every day we're hanging out with the Gazans, packing the boxes for Gazans. So this means a lot to us. Go ahead.
So if they donate, what sorts of things will their money go to help the people of Gaza? What types of essentials are getting in?
Right now, the only thing that we're collecting donations for is specifically through Life Foundation and Al Khair, and therefore the aid trucks. The aid trucks, we send in water trucks, food trucks, tents, blankets, ambulances. We've got 12 ambulances going in, medical supplies, hygiene supplies, everything that they need, they are sending in. And our trucks are getting in 3 days. So there's this question of like why trucks are backed up at the border. And let me explain that. Yes, we can deliver eSIMs as well. The reason why these trucks are backed up at the border is because of the Israeli restrictions. And there's a couple of restrictions. Yes, there is a link in my bio to donate for the aid trucks. There's a couple of things. First of all, the Israelis have set a parameter for how many trucks can get in per day, and that number is 200. There's never going to be more than 200 trucks getting in until this parameter is changed. Okay. Now, to keep this into perspective, normally there were 500 trucks getting in every day. So this is less than half already. Okay. But it gets worse. So out of the 200 possible trucks that the Israelis will allow, normally they let in less than 100. They never let in less than 100. Sometimes it's 17, sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 100. It really just depends, okay? And so this is the Israelis that are doing this. They're also imposing massive restrictions on any of the trucks. And not only the trucks, but like the specific content that's in the trucks, the inventory, the way it's packed, everything. And if there's one thing wrong, they send the trucks back. And so basically what's happened is like, as these specific organizations start to get these trucks in, they kind of get a reputation. It's like, okay, they're getting the trucks in, blah, blah, blah. And then these trucks are able to get in easier. The organization we work with right now, dude, we don't know what we did right or wrong. We're literally just trying to obey all the rules, do everything, make sure nothing's expired, make sure everything's packed right, this and that. We're not trying to finagle anything. We're doing it by the rules, and that's why our trucks are getting in. So I can't say why other people's trucks aren't getting in. I can just say why ours are getting in. And so if you donate to Al Khair through that link, those trucks will be in 3 days, barring any changes. And we're seeing this on FaceTime. We're in contact on FaceTime as these trucks are arriving. So that's how we know it's taking us about 3 days. because literally Hassan, the leader of this team, his brothers are in Gaza, his family's in Gaza. So we're in very tight communication with exactly what they need. And stuff like that. So, and there are other organizations also who are getting trucks in quick. It's not just us, there are other ones, and there are many who are not. And it just is what it is, you know what I mean? So we're just doing what we can do to do as much as we can do. Is anything getting into the north of Gaza? The answer is no right now, to my knowledge. Nothing is getting into the north of Gaza. And again, this is the Israelis. They are not letting in anything. The restrictions are so severe from the Israelis, and again, I've heard over and over and over again, it's Egypt, it's Egypt. Listen, this is just my opinion, but as somebody who's been here for 10 weeks on the ground, that is bullshit. It is absolute bullshit. Everybody in Egypt supports Gaza, and I mean, the president has come out and even said the border is open. This is the Israelis, and that is exactly what we are seeing too. We are seeing the government of Egypt assist and help, even through the specific organization we're working with through the military. They're there assisting and helping. It is the Israelis that are blocking all this stuff. So that's my take on it, for what it's worth. So and let's talk about some of these things. On the news, the trucks are selling food back. That gets, you know. Go ahead, Chip. Yeah.
I just want to address one thing, and that is, this makes me really sad to see, but both before Quinn left, while he first started being down there, and even today, I saw some comments like this. People are questioning somebody's motivations. Oh, he's down there to get clicks. He's down there for personal reasons. I can tell you this from having talked to Quinn multiple times. First of all, why not be happy for anybody that goes down to pitch in first and foremost? Because the more volunteers, the better, right? I mean, this is anybody who goes. But questioning somebody's reasons for going is pretty sick at this point, right? I mean, if you've followed Quinn's journey as far as his life in general, but more specifically what he's been talking about, he's done nothing but advocating for the Palestinians and talking about all the inequities and calling out all the bullshit, and his heart's in the right place. I can tell you that just from knowing him as a person. So for those of you who doubt his sincerity, he's been down there working hard with other people. Yeah, he's gotten. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, Quinn, at some point, not necessarily right now, but you probably had some preconceived notions of what life would be like down there versus what you've actually experienced, like any place you go in the world. So at some point, I'd like you to share your personal take on that. But you wanted to go into another talk. I just want to put that out there. All you haters, come on, man. Let's work together. It's all about peace and love, not about hate.
Yeah, don't mind the haters, man. And you guys, a lot of what you got to understand is that these Zionists are devious, man. And one of the things that they do is they bring out these haters and they perpetuate these haters, and half the people who are hating are bots or whatever. So just ignore that crap, man. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about that stuff. So, but no, I do want to address a couple of things because I've seen a couple of things where people are worried about the corruption, they're worried about this, they're worried about it, and I get that, man. I get that. Like, people are selling food, people are making people pay to get them out of Gaza. Listen, and I made a video about this today. This is so fucking important for you guys to understand. Listen, whenever there's a situation like this where there's desperation, there's going to be criminal activity. I mean, bad people are going to prey on people who are desperate. This is what it is, man. And so, yes, there is criminal activity here, but there's two things for you to understand about that. Number one, this is normal. This happens. The second thing is, this is not Egypt doing this. This is not the government of Egypt doing this. In fact, they're cracking down on it. They're arresting people for doing this. So you just have to understand, this is the way things work in these situations. And again, it's a tenuous situation because it's like, okay, do we go ahead and participate in this criminal activity because we are desperate and we want to get our family out or whatever? And what I would say to that is, that's your decision. I don't do it. But just realize it is criminal activity, and there is a consequence for that. It bolsters the criminal activity and it makes more of it. More corruption, more criminal activity, more people hurt. So just be careful with this stuff, man. And that goes for the GoFundMes and stuff too. Listen, there is no cost to get out of Gaza. There are only rules. You have to go through the rules. Unfortunately, the Israelis determine those rules. You have to go through the health ministry. You gotta have this, you gotta have this, you gotta do this, blah, blah, blah. There's a process, right? If you choose to go around that process, you're bolstering illegal activity. That's what the GoFundMes are for, man. They're bribing people to smuggle them across the border. And I get it, man. But just be careful with that shit, man. It's not legit. So, and it's gonna hurt people. But so, I like Quinn's content, but his emotions make him blind to right and wrong. Ooh, okay,
Yeah, that's
cool.
by the way, speaking of bullshit, that's bullshit. So one more thing, just to let you know. So two U.S. senators, Jeff Merkley from Oregon and Chris Van Hollen from Maryland, actually visited the Rafah crossing about
They were
2 weeks
here.
ago.
Yep.
And what
Yep.
they
They were
said
here.
was they were deeply disappointed and concerned that the Israeli restrictions and the bottleneck that they've created on the Gazan side of this border have really slowed the much necessary aid to people, and it's having real life impacts on the lives of the people.
People
We
are
talked
starving because of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad. So again, it always comes back to control, right? Control. The Israelis want to exert maximum control, and that's what's been at the heart of all of this since going back to the very beginning. And it's
100%.
until that changes, nothing's going to change. We're going to see more and more of the same type of cycles repeating.
Yeah. And let me just say this. The other thing that happens is that people become suspicious of things. Like I just saw somebody said here, oh, there's border guards in Egypt that are taking the bribes. Of course there are border guards in Egypt that are taking the bribes. I mean, that's what corruption and criminal activity is. Like, come on, we have the same thing in America, man. I mean, the same thing in every country. There's corruption, there's evil, there's bribes. Of course, that doesn't mean that Egypt, the government, is doing this stuff. I mean, don't be silly, man. There's always this stuff going on. And so what happens is that when you guys perpetuate things like this, it makes people suspicious, right? And then they don't want to donate to anything. They don't want to help out anywhere because they're worried about it. And so then what happens is we don't have the money to fill the aid trucks. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like it's going round and round and round, right? So you just have to be careful with that stuff, man. There's a lot of great people here working. I was in a meeting the other day. There's a meeting every week at the ERC with all of the INGOs, all the big ones, all the medium ones, everything. And I'm telling you, man, we are all so restricted. These are people who have worked in situations like this all over the world and have never seen anything like this. Like we are all blown away. Never seen anything like this. Like the restrictions that are going on, the killing of the journalists, the bombing of hospitals, the lies, everything, man. We've never seen anything like this. This is an absolute clusterfuck, and it's absolutely because of what the Israelis are doing. Like 100%. I'm in rooms with these people every week. These are great people that are genuinely working their ass off to help the Gazans. And people that worked in Libya, people that worked in Sudan, people all over the world. Never have we seen a humanitarian crisis like this one. And I'm literally in the room with Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children. I mean, you name it, man. Never anywhere have we seen anything like this. So it's crazy, man. So people are starving because of this, and the Israelis are just pointing fingers and saying, "Oh, it's Egypt's fault." No, it's not. It's absolutely not. So, why is Mr. Big still in here, man? Jeez, that guy. Get that dude out.
Here's a quick question as far as the sentiment of the people, just to cover a little different angle here, because we talk a lot about politics. So my understanding, and tell me if this is incorrect, that a lot of the Egyptian body politic would like to see something done to change these dynamics more so than just kind of waiting and seeing. But the Arab governments in general have been very reluctant, or maybe there's even some other ulterior things. What is the thought, and what are people able to do to put pressure, if anything, on their government to do something more?
I mean, that depends on where you live. Like, what are you able to do to put pressure on your government here in Egypt? Not a damn thing. I wouldn't advise that. However, we're having extraordinary results in our Project Humanity groups with the U.S. group, which has started a phone bank and stuff like that, where they're calling reps and putting pressure in. Absolutely, that's one of the reasons why these two senators came over here, is because people are putting pressure on them. So absolutely, doing that there is a big help. Here in Egypt, I think these people here have been dealing with this for a lot longer than we have in America. And they have a very close relationship with Israel, and I don't mean in a good way. I mean, it's close. They're close by, and they have lots of history with this, and lots of bad history, right? These people know what Israel is like firsthand, and they're 100% in support of the Gazans. But you have to understand this, and a lot of the Egyptians don't understand this, and if there's Egyptians in here, I don't mean to offend them at all, but a lot of them don't understand this. they will come down upon their government because their government is not doing enough. But what they don't realize is that the US has such a strong hold over all of these governments. And let me give you a perfect example that you would understand it in a moment, Chip, because you were in the military. But over half of Egypt's Air Force is old F-16s from the United States, right? So tell me what that means, Chip. You probably know.
Well, it's hard to get parts, and so if you can't get the parts, you have to follow the rules of the U.S. to get your parts.
Boom. That's it right there. That's it right there. The U.S. can ground half of Egypt's Air Force at any given moment just by refusing to sell them parts. And they have literally done this in other countries, as you know. It's absolutely crazy. And so I'm not saying they have total control over Egypt, but I'm saying, like, if someone's criticizing like President Sisi and what he's doing, what he's not doing, perhaps understand the complexity and the nuance of the situation, right? There's a lot of pressure here. And the last thing Egypt wants to do is go to war. Like, the last thing they want to do is go to war. Like, and this is not just an Egypt thing. I mean, the example I just gave you is in Egypt. There's examples like this in every Middle Eastern country around here. The U.S. has its talons in everything. And so it's not just as simple as like South Africa, for example, which is like risen up and said, well, yeah, that's because nobody wants anything from South Africa. I love my South African brothers and sisters, but the U.S. doesn't need anything from South Africa, and so they don't give a fuck. So South Africa can do whatever they want. But it's not the same over here. Like, if Egypt does the kinds of things that South Africa is doing, they're going to face serious repercussions for that. And it could lead to a war. And I don't even know all the nuances. I'm not trying to teach anybody the nuances. I'm simply saying that they're there. And I think a lot of people forget that. That we're talking decades and decades and decades of U.S. control and U.S. influence. And it doesn't end just like that. There's a lot of nuances. So, you know my golden rule. I don't ever judge a foreign government of a country I'm in, or criticize it. I'm just looking at it objectively. Both sides there. Whoever the president is, and right now it's Sisi, he's got a hard job because of America, right? So there's just some nuance there for you. So fire away questions you may have in the comments, people. We'll try to read them. So
Yeah,
what else you got, Chip?
and while we're waiting for those to come in, somebody said this, and I don't know if you want to address this or not. This is probably not the right time. I'm going to say my piece first. So somebody made a comment of why Quinn has, quote unquote, a slur in his name. Now, listen, I could call the guy Quinn the Buffalo, Quinn the Ant-Man, Quinn the Ringleader. It doesn't really I don't give a shit about his name. It's what the person does, right? A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet, as they say in Shakespeare. But Quinn, do you want to address that at all, or you want to just leave that behind?
Nope, don't give a shit. I've addressed it so many times. If that's what people are worried about while other people are dying, then you know what? Fuck off.
But I can tell you this, it's not coming. It's actually after a song that was written by a musician. So it's not that he's saying he's trying to do it to be like rude to people who are Inuit in the northern segments of the North Pole. It's just because he's a music lover. He plays the guitar, he sings, he makes his own music, and he appreciates classic rock, which just happens to be part of that body. So lay off the name. It's not even his name, okay? He's just using somebody else's. Fair enough?
I don't care, man. That's just small-minded shit. So, and someone says after what I said, they said, so Sisi is a good president. Listen, let me be clear. I'm not making any judgments, good or bad. I do not judge. I am a guest here. I have not been here long enough to know all the nuances of the political system. I don't judge. I'm simply stating facts that I see. So I'm not saying whether he's good. I'm not saying whether he's bad. I literally am not making a judgment. I'm saying I'm grateful that he's allowing me to be here in this beautiful country. That's all I'm saying. So yes, our aid gets into Rafah within 3 days. Yes.
And then the question I wanted to ask you before we take the audience question was, Quinn, coming from as an American perspective and thinking about what it might be and to come into, quote, an Arab country or Egypt in and of itself, what were your thoughts going in of what you thought it was going to be like versus what you actually have experienced?
I mean, I would say, like, to tell you the truth, I'm not really surprised by a whole lot, just because I've already done so much travel. But I would say I'm impressed by more stuff. than surprised. And really the impressed is just from the Arabic culture in general. It's so precise and so deeply honors everybody and everything, and it's really refreshing. Like the way they honor family, the way they honor each other. Even for example, they have over 12 million words in their vocabulary, and we have about 180,000 in American English, and that's because of the precision of Arabic. And the different ways that you communicate different things, because it's so important for them to be so precise. And I just admire the heck out of that, man. I really do. They're very authentic culture and very deeply caring. And the other thing is that the religion here doesn't bother me. And in the U.S., I get irritated with the Christians all the time. Here, people could invite me to go to prayers with them. They can tell me to read the Quran, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not offended because they're not like pushy. They're just kind. I hear the call to prayer every day, the azan. I love it. It's just so peaceful and wonderful. I don't ever feel pressured here or judged because I'm not Muslim, right? So I really love it here, man. I really do. Beautiful people, beautiful families, and the music is wonderful. I'm falling in love with Arab music too. So anyway, those are the things that I'm impressed with. But one of the things they have to fix is the litter. I'm going to be talking about that because they have such a deep respect for all sorts of stuff. And then they throw their trash on the ground, like out their windows, like we used to do in the 70s. They haven't learned that yet. And you go down the bank of the Nile and there's trash all over the place. So I'm going to be calling them to some accountability with that because we need to clean that up. But they're beautiful people.
Yeah, that'll be your next mission in Egypt. Quinn cleaned up Egypt, by the way. Yeah, it's pretty good. That's good to hear. Okay, let's check the chat for some questions. Somebody asked us. This is silly, but somebody asked us, "Are you guys communists?" We're not political. We're not really politically connected to any particular movement. We're sort of just like looking at the world and saying, "What's effed up? What might be able to do to make a difference in whatever way we can? Love other people and let the rest of it sort itself out." Basically, that's kind of where we come from.
Exactly. Be you. Yeah. Someone says food. Do you like the food? I actually don't like the Egyptian food very well. In fact, I always joke and I say the best food in Egypt is the Syrian food and the Lebanese food.
Interesting. Now, what is it about the food you don't find? Without being disparaging, what kind of foods are they?
It's just a little bit bland for me. I prefer spicier food, and I also I don't know, man. It's heavy. It's heavy food. When you eat the Lebanese food, it's like lighter. It seems like fresher and lighter. So I just like it better. Yeah, someone else says Lebanese food is the best. Oh yeah. I've tried kushri, not my bag, man. It's just like a bowl full of carbs. I've tried Palestinian food. I do like, Palestinian food is more like the Levantine food. Yeah, I like the Levantine food, definitely. So, and it's funny. A lot of the Egyptians agree with me. Like they love the Syrian food.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, the Syrians have basically taken over shawarma here.
It's amazing though how different food is with different cultures around the world, and how when you travel, it's just such a. And the other thing is, in America, it's hard to find some of these restaurants. They start here. They call them, let's say, Ethiopia, but they're not really. There's sort of some American version of this. So to find authentic foods that you can taste that really are from the culture, like Anthony Bourdain used to do, Parts Unknown. It's just a really cool experience.
Yeah, I've tried fool many times. I actually don't mind fool. Yeah, I like it. It's pretty good. Yep. So.
Now, Quinn, as far as your day-to-day, where do you stay? Who do you spend your time with? What kind of things do you stay busy with? Is it all work? Are you having a chance to enjoy yourself a little bit? How's that going?
Yeah, so basically I'm in this section called Maadi right now, which is about 30 minutes south of downtown Cairo. And it's kind of like it's the section where a lot of people, like a lot of journalists are, a lot of all the NGOs are here, things like that. There's a lot of expats here from different countries and so on and so forth. So it's a good section to be in because it's easy to meet everybody. You can walk pretty much everywhere to different meetings and stuff like that. And so it's good for connection. So I'm staying here right now with another volunteer who came in from America, Jen. We become really good friends. She's from Montana, so we're staying here. But I move around a lot, man. Sometimes I go every couple of days, I go somewhere else because the traffic here is so bad that if I have a bunch of meetings, like say over in Giza or 6th of October, I'll go stay there for a couple of days. If I got some over in New Cairo, I'll go stay there for a couple of days. So I don't have to drive back and forth to the different meetings. So like I'll be in Nasser City on Friday. I have meetings lined up, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom. That way I can make one trip there, do the meetings and get out because traffic is literally just nuts here. So in the beginning, I was spending all of my time driving and I was just like, I got to stop this. So this seems to be a good location. And basically, honestly, dude, what I do every day is I get up, I check in with the coordinators of the different projects that we're working on, see what they need from me. I answer some questions from people who are asking for my help, send out things like that. Normally, we have something that's like kind of an emergency thing every day, every other day. A family got out of Gaza for the medical thing. They need some help. They have this. We found a family that needs this. They're getting kicked out, whatever, blah, 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 blah. So, it just depends. It's like putting out fires, basically, connecting people and so on and so forth. But that's a lot of what I do. And then I'm constantly in contact with the NGOs and the INGOs. There's so many of them stuck here. There's probably 1,000 of them stuck here. So I'm constantly in touch with them. And then, then one of them hears about me or sees a video that says, hey, Quinn, can we get together? Sure, we'll get together, set a meeting. So I can find out what they do, how we can connect, what resources they have, blah, 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 blah. So that's a lot of what I do, honestly. I network people. I just make contacts and someone says, hey, I need this. Someone says, ask Quinn. So they ask me, I go look through my contacts. I go, yeah, here's the person I'm hooking you up with. That's honestly a lot of what I do. It's fucking tedious, dude. I honestly hate it. It's not my bag, but I've got some good help here that helps me stay organized. Cause you know me, I'm not the most organized person. Yeah, but that's what's working, man. It works someone says connecting the dots. Honestly, that's 90% of what I do is connect the dots. So.
Here's an important question. So some people in the comments, this is Mansour. You've had interviews with Mansour before from Gaza. He's a
Great
journalist.
guy.
Mansour is a journalist from Gaza that's been providing daily updates for as long as I can remember. Somebody says he hasn't been heard from for 3 days now.
Yeah, 72 hours. He's been missing. We don't know where he is. We're just hoping he's good. So again, this continually happens, and we're hoping for good news. So, and by the way, he's not from Gaza. Mansour is from Canada, actually, and he was in Gaza, got stuck there, was able to get his family out, and could have gotten out himself, but he elected to stay there with his people from Gaza. He's a fucking hero, man, this dude. He's an amazing guy. So we definitely hope for the best with him, but Mansour could have gotten out and he didn't. He stayed with his people. So, he is literally a true hero, man. He's an amazing guy. So we're hoping he's good. So
there's another young woman named Bisan, Bisan, who's been getting updates as well. So same story. People are saying they haven't heard from her either. So, or maybe they have.
There was a media blackout going again. This is what the Israelis do, man. They block everything. They do a blackout and then they go commit atrocities. And so we just hope these guys are good. Yeah, exactly. He was born in Jerusalem, his wife. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, these people they're all heroes, man, what they've done. So, it's amazing.
And one other question that came up, and I thought this was a good question. So here in the United States, people are aware of the boycotting of brands like McDonald's and Starbucks and Disney. Yeah. Has that been something that people are aware of and doing in Egypt?
Oh, huge. Nobody's buying American in Egypt. Absolutely, 100%. In fact, there's a funny story that there's this really old, I think it's like a soda brand, I can't remember. It's a really old brand here in Egypt that basically got overshadowed by American stuff like whatever, Coke and stuff like this. And since the boycott, people have rediscovered this old Egyptian brands, and they've like come back to life, which is great. So, but yeah, no, we're all boycotting here, absolutely 100%, and the Egyptians are very, very in favor of that. So, yep. Big time.
Some people asked about your travel plans. Are you planning to stay indefinitely in Cairo? Do you plan to come back to the States at some point? What's on your mind there?
I will tell you, I have drank the water of the Nile. I don't know if you know what that means, but they say once you drink the water of the Nile, then you won't leave Egypt. So I got a 6-month residency the other day. So I am not planning on going anywhere fast. The goal is still get into Gaza. And then once I get into Gaza, I'm going to come back to Egypt and actually live here and tour it and enjoy it, because I haven't really got to do that much to that. I will be going to Bahrain actually next week for a short trip. One of the things that we're working on here is,
Can you tell people where Bahrain is?
yeah, it's right next to Qatar. Just a little bit northwest of Qatar, and I'm going there for a very specific reason. One of my volunteers that I work with almost every day is actually Bahrainian, and so we've been very connected there with people who want to help. But one of the things we did is we had a doctor come in from Bahrain several weeks ago, and I was very, very impressed with her. And she has worked in a humanitarian crisis like this, and she's developed a program to help train the volunteers who go in to these crises, and then also help them when they come out to process what they've seen and decompress before they return back to their country. And I was immediately interested in this because I think I've told you before, but in my younger days, I used to lead humanitarian trips all over the place. And so this is one of the things that I feel is very, very important to do. And so she's helping us develop a training program, because we're putting together a humanitarian guide, I think you know this, for all of these groups that are going to be coming in over the next year. Because listen, aid trucks are important right now, but it's also important to put systems into place, because the Gazans are going to need us for a long time, years, for PTSD, for medical issues, for everything, right? They're going to need us for a long time. And so to put these systems into place, so we're working with a lot of groups who are going to be coming in, bringing construction workers, doctors, EMTs, trauma specialists, everything like this throughout the year. And we want to be able to have these programs set to help them and aid them. So we're putting together a whole guide, language, culture, where to stay, who to work with, everything else like that. So basically, it's one of the things we're doing. So we're going to be basically flying there to Bahrain to meet with this doctor and kind of go over a lot of the training of how we can do these programs, and then we'll be training the Egyptians that are part of our Cairo team, because our Cairo team, again, is international and Egyptian. The international ones, as soon as there's ceasefire, we're going to Gaza, but the Egyptians can't go. So the Egyptians will be staying here, running this Cairo team and implementing these different projects that we have in place. So they'll be training the people that come in, and then helping to process the people that are coming out, right? And welcoming people, helping people, this and that. It's something for them to do, because they can't actually physically go in there. So that's one of the things that we're doing, and so why we're headed for Bahrain for a couple days. So, but then when I get back, I'll be here until I get into Gaza, and then hopefully, when this is all over, I'd love to just take a month or two and just live in Egypt and go visit it, because I've barely been out of Cairo. So I took a couple of days. I went down to Hurghada. I took a couple of days, went up to Alexandria just to like take a weekend and go to the beach and just fucking veg and get my mind straight. But other than that, I haven't really done any tour shit, So I'd like to come back and do that and see the country. So that's the plan right now. And then in the summer, I'll be in West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. So that's the plan right now. But you know me, I make shit up as I go. That could change.
No, that's good. That's what we love about you. You're a digital nomad, like they say. Okay, so some people in the chat have asked about maybe if they're considering trying to come and join the effort in Egypt with someone like you. Timing wise, and maybe even cost wise, to get either from the West or East Coast over to Cairo, what would they be looking at, and how would they involve themselves?
Yeah, so here's Here's what I would say about coming here to Cairo to work with us. If you're one of the people like me who like literally just can't sit still and watch this go on, and you have to actually come there, then fucking hop a plane and come here, and we'll put you to work. But here's what you have to understand: like this is a mess here, man. And again, we're not an organization. We're a loose group of people who've decided to work together. So when you come here, you're on your own, man. You pay your way. We'll help you find a place to live. Once you get here, you'll make some friends. You may room with some people, this and that. But like, you're on your own, man. And so you have to be somewhat of a flexible person. You have to be self-sufficient. And then even when you get here, like, we're so busy fucking working, man. I don't have time to welcome people and, you know, call you every day and be like, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like, literally, you have to be able to take initiative and just hook up with us and go, put me to work, coach, put me in, what can I do? And then even start your own projects and make your own contacts and this and that. Like, so you need to be a special type if you're going to come here, I guess is what I'm saying. It's very dicey and things change day to day. And then the second thing to think about is, could you do more good where you are right now? If you're in the United States, honestly, you're probably going to do more good where you are right now than you would by being here. We have enough white people here. Stay at home and call your Congress people. This is my take on it. Now, I do talk to some people who are like, I just feel like I need to come. And I go, then come. We have plenty of work to do here. But you kind of have to be a certain type to come here because it's so flexible, really, if that makes sense. Now, the one thing I would say to that is when we're going to need you to come is in March, June, September, December, right? Like, we're going to need you in the future to come. Once all this aid gets in, now it's the regular stuff. The politicians and the news media have said, hey, look over there, forget about Gaza. That's when we're going to need you to come in. So start planning a trip right now when you could come in, and we'll help you with that. So there was another question I missed. What was that? Someone asked me, cost. You asked me about that too. So here's the deal. Without saying things that I can't say, I will tell you that if you just do things like the regular way, like you go to an ATM as an American and you get some American dollars out, your exchange rate is 1 to 32. There are some other ways that you can make that higher, and that's all I'm going to say right now. But even at 1 to 32, you can live very easily. Now, Egypt is a cosmopolitan country, okay? Cairo is a cosmopolitan city. You could easily spend as much as you do in America. But if you live simply like I do, you can live very, very, very cheaply.
Is it called the Egyptian lira? What do they call the currency there?
Egyptian pounds.
Egyptian pounds. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Most
Egyptian
people from the United States, I mean, we never spend anything but dollars for the most part, so it's interesting.
No, I mean, like, literally, like, here in Mayadi, where I'm living right now, I can walk out and I can get a meal for, you know, $3 or $4, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, but I can also go get a meal for $100. Because there are Americanized places here. There are obviously wealthy people here, and so you know it depends on how you live. In other words, I live very simply. I eat street food. I cook a lot of meals myself. Like tonight, a bunch of the team members are coming over here in a little while. We've all been working at different projects, and I'm cooking dinner, and I'm cooking like rice, and you know what I mean. Like we're keeping it cool. So we live very simply. A lot of us sleep on couches and share rooms and this and that. So if you live like that, dude, it's very, very inexpensive for you to come here. Way cheaper than the U.S. So hope that makes sense.
So I wanted to share something. There have been a lot of people filtering in as the live has been going on. Thank you for being here, by the way. This is Quinn the Eskimo. Just to tell you who the hell Quinn is, if you're somebody who doesn't know, he's a TikToker who had been doing digital nomad sort of travel filming and stuff like that. Had built up a pretty sizable following just from doing that. He became aware of the issue more so when this happened on October 7th, and he just started talking about it from the standpoint of having compassion for people that he saw as being subjugated to some pretty bad conditions. It kind of took off. He got a big followership. Somebody in the comments challenged him to go to Gaza because they said, hey, you won't last 24 hours there as an American. You'll see, I guess because of the H group. So Quinn took him up on the offer. He went down. Now he's in Cairo, Egypt, sort of working with other NGOs and other aid groups to try to get aid into Gaza, some of which has been getting in, but most of which has been slowed down by the Israeli bottleneck at the Rafah crossing on that side within Gaza, where the Israeli military maintains a very large military presence. For those of you, they say the Egyptian border is open to Egypt. It is not. That is a bullshit story. Now, for those of you who did come in late, I just want to make you aware, all of these live videos are recorded. So if you want to go back and review the beginning of our conversation, you're going to be able to do that. At the conclusion of it, I'm going to be downloading it and I'll upload it immediately this afternoon to my YouTube and my Rumble channels, which if you go into my bio, there's a link that says Linktree Chip Barnes. For those of you in the United States, it's a clickable link. And for those of you outside the United States, I don't know why they do this, but TikTok does not put a clickable link. So I've written the characters in my bio that you need to type into a web browser. It will then launch a list of links, among which you'll see one says YouTube and Rumble. If you don't know what the hell Rumble is, it's a competitor to YouTube, very similar layout. It's just owned by a different company and it has a little less censorship. So a lot of people are moving their content there. So Quinn, I don't want to hold you up. How much time do you have left? If you have time to answer some more questions from the chat?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, somebody says, which organizations would you consider donating to? We're going to have a complete list coming out, but right now where I need you to donate is the link in my profile for aid trucks, because we're working with the Life Foundation and Al Khair. We are sending in trucks and these trucks are getting there within 3 days. This is a very, very quick turnaround. And the more money we get, the more trucks we're going to pack. And if you are with an organization, even overseas or wherever, we even have a program where we can put your logo on the boxes, on the trucks, whatever. We don't care who gets the credit. We just want to get the trucks in there. So you can see that fundraiser that's on the link in my bio on all my profiles. And I highly recommend this organization. Because like I said, we're there packing boxes with them every day. And these people who run it are Gazans. They're amazing human beings. So that's really the number one place that I suggest donating right now. We're going to have lots more stuff coming too, but that's what we're pushing now because we want to get these trucks in there and we want to get these ambulances in there. So that's a big thing.
We're seeing a lot more questions rolling in that are sort of repetitive with what we talked about earlier, like which type of aid, what's getting in, and what time frame. So I would invite those who are asking those questions as you've been filtering in. I'm going to be recording the live, like I said moments ago, so it'll be up this afternoon on my YouTube and Rumble channels. You'll be able to hear those answers from the recording like that. So, so what else is on your mind as far as this whole experience that you've been going through? I mean, how does it compare to your other travel experiences? How is it fitting into your life right now? Is where you are in your life, this chapter of your life?
I mean, this is a completely different experience than I've had since I've been traveling. Because normally I just travel. I just go to a country and I live there and I get to know people and I make up what I'm going to do every day. And honestly, I don't work very hard. I literally just travel. And I make videos, travel videos. A lot of times I work with different organizations or tours or excursions or whatever. And sometimes that's how I make my money. And so I'm not doing that at all now. And basically TikTok has stolen all of my money anyway. So I'm working instead doing these things. And so it's a completely different experience for me. Some days I enjoy it. Most days I hate it. But it's just necessary to do, man. I mean, how can we go back to our normal lives when people are getting genocided? Like, how could I possibly just go and, hike a mountain somewhere or sit on a beach when there's people being genocided, right? Like, and you feel powerless. You feel like there's not a lot you can do. And it's demoralizing. Even here, we're all demoralized. The NGOs, the workers, we're all, because we've never seen anything this bad. Like, it's like, dude, we're just trying to help people, right? It's demoralizing. And we're so close to the border and nobody can even get there. We can't even get into Sinai. It's crazy, man. It's tough. And I don't do well with things like that. So, which is why I've had to take off and just go away for a couple days and just like recoup, get my chi back, because it's demoralizing. And then I think to myself, well, shit, at least I'm not getting genocide like the Palestinians. Like, Quinn, get your ass back to work. And so I go back to work. Like, who am I to complain, right? But yeah, it's different than my other travel experiences for sure. And also I, because of this whole thing, and because I've been willing to use my platform for this, a lot of people know me now. And I mean, I walk out in the street and I get recognized, and I hate it. Honestly, I hate it. I just want to be incognito. I want to go somewhere in my pajamas if I want to. I want to do what I want to and not worry about it. So I hate it, honestly. But it is what it is. I'm taking it as a responsibility. I'm gritting my teeth, and I'm getting through it. And my friends here, luckily, are so supportive and so helpful. But yeah, I like everybody else. I'm really looking forward to this whole thing being over, and then holding Israel accountable, so we can all get back to other lives, because this is a mess for everybody, you know. But you just get up every day and you just say, hey, I have to do something, because these people are being fucking genocided, man. Like, you can't go back to normal life until we stop this. So that's where I'm at right now, man. Some days it's a beating.
Accountability for the Israelis. I think this is a really key issue. And tomorrow, there's going to be sort of a next step in the ICJ proceedings. But before we talk about that, couple quick things that people asked about. First of all, the update on Mansour, the journalist, just like people have been asking that like crazy. Nobody's sure. It's been about 3 days. Fingers crossed it's just about blackouts or maybe some other logistics. Maybe his phone got damaged. Who knows? But we're, fingers crossed. As soon as we hear something, we'll let you know immediately. The other thing I wanted to say was, somebody brought this up. I thought this was a really good point. So children, of all people, are going through the most traumatic experience that no child should ever have to go through. So one of the questions I thought was excellent was, among the aid being provided, is any of the aid in the form of anything for kids, like toys and other things, to keep them from, freaking out about what they're experiencing?
No, not to my knowledge. No one's sending in toys or anything like that. And yeah, a lot of that would be great, but right now there's just people starving, and so it's just very basic food supplies, dude. You'd be appalled if you saw the stuff we're sending in. There's boxes of stuff that one box that feeds a family of 5 for 2 weeks, and you look at the box and you go, what the fuck? It's bare necessities to survive. That's it, man. There's so many people that are literally dying of disease, that are literally dying of starvation, women who are miscarrying, just awful stuff, dude. And so, no, all of the aid is the barest bones of what people need to survive. And it sucks. It's not enough. It's not what they need. It's just tough, man. So, we are just doing what we can, and we're just praying earnestly for a ceasefire so that we can actually get in there and start doing some real good, really helping people, and yeah, just trying to bring some joy back to some of those children, of course. Yes, get a smile on their face, 100%. So
people keep asking about the donation link. So let me just share with you. You don't need to know the name of the organization. Quinn's done the research for you and for us. But the way to access the donation portion is to go to the link that's in Quinn's bio on his homepage here on TikTok. I think his says like linked bio or something like that. If you click that, among the other links, you'll find the ones for the donation or donations. And similarly, on my link tree, mine's called Linktree, same idea. It's in my bio. Yeah. The very top thing says donate. It's called United Women for Palestine is the name of the group that I'm helping. And they're providing things like clothing, winter clothing, actually women's undergarments, like protective, like people have their period, they have to have stuff to deal with that. This is something that women deal with that men don't. And it's real. And not having the adequate, things to use for that, it makes life extremely uncomfortable and unpleasant. So that's all a part of the aid that's going to go in if you make those donations. So I've made a sizable donation to that organization. And for those of you that can afford to, whether it be for the links in Quinn or the one in mine, hope you'll do that.
Yeah. Cool.
So let's see if there's any more questions in here. Yeah, women need sanitary stuff. I mean, they have that's a whole other type of healthcare that most men don't think about.
Yeah, we're doing sanitary stuff for both men and women. Yep, absolutely. Feminine hygiene stuff, absolutely. Yep, that's going in as well. And we're working with some other organizations too that are doing that stuff too. The link in my bio is specifically for two organizations that are working together that we are literally packing trucks with. We're doing everything with them. And like I said, they're run by Gazans. It's the Life Foundation and Al Khair. So that's what's in there. So
Beautiful. Now,
yeah.
in terms of what the next steps are to maybe see things open up, have you heard any word on the street as far as from the Egyptian side of anything that's going to be happening different, or still in the same status quo, or what's the word on the street there?
I mean, nobody knows, man. What we've heard from, so I'm loosely part of this group with the INGOs and the NGOs and the ERC that we meet every week, and we get a lot of updates there. There are UN people in that meeting as well, and so basically we tend to get information from the UN that's kind of trickled down to when it reaches little lowly people like me. And basically that news is kind of how the NGOs and the INGOs are structuring where they're going and stuff. So for example, a lot of them are now deploying to go ahead what they call surge, where they go in and they prepare for stuff. They're going to Lebanon because it's the belief that Israel is trying to start a world war, man, and they're attacking all these different places, and the U.S. is complicit in that. And so we've got to help Yemen now. We've got to help Lebanon, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these NGOs, these INGOs, are already starting to surge to these areas. They're still doing stuff here, but they're surging to these areas too. And what we also hear is that that there is going to be a ceasefire coming. I mean, you're seeing the news. We heard this like a week or two ago, but you're seeing the news now that they're going back and forth about this ceasefire. And so we don't know though, man. It's all up to Israel. It depends. But that's what we're hearing right now is that there will be ceasefire coming soon, but that this is also extending to other areas and so on and so forth too. So we don't know, man. That's as much as we know. So.
Okay, so for those of you who have been watching this, obviously we're trying to reach as many people as possible. We have about 275, which is great, but we'd of course like to have many more to be able to ask questions of Quinn. A lot of people are curious. Many people have been asking, where have you been? Now, Quinn does video updates on his channel. Remember, that, excuse me, content creators have been getting, put it this way, the reach is being limited. So if you haven't seen it, there's probably a good reason. It's not being cycled through what they call your For You page. So you have to actually go to the person you want to follow now and just look for their updates. So either come to my site or come to Quinn's. That's how you're going to get most information. Unfortunately, the social media scene is getting worse and worse for people that are telling the truth or being critical of the Israeli, what do you want to call it, the settler colonial project, which is a shame.
Yeah, and the other thing is this, so I actually was absent from social media for about a week or so. And one of the reasons why is because there were several reasons, but one of the reasons why is because I was getting a 6-month residency visa here. And the other reason is because I was talking with the ERC, and the ERC wanted me to go in to Rafah and film with them. But I had to get checked out through the government and check my social media and everything else and make sure I was not saying anything I shouldn't say and so on and so forth. And so I basically I was already starting to kind of temper some stuff back because of that stuff. But now they've changed the rules anyway, and there are no Americans that are allowed in. So I got rejected anyway, so I can't go in. So they're not letting any Americans in now. To Sinai. So, and I already have my 6-month visa card now, so I'm good. So I'm back to posting, obviously regularly. So, but I do have to be careful of some of the stuff that I say and how I post stuff and this and that, because again, there's different consequences when you're living overseas to different things, right? So I have to be careful about the things I say and what I do. So
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, in the West Bank, I've actually been in contact with some people who have reached out to me. And as they reach checkpoints, you may not know this, but they take the phones of people who are Palestinians and they literally force them to open it up and they
Yeah,
look through everything. And for example, if let's
that's
say they're
right.
on TikTok, if they were to like a post by me or Quinn, they get arrested. They get
Yeah,
arrested and taken to
that's right.
jail. That's
Yeah,
how
it's
crazy
crazy.
that
It's crazy shit, man. So you know, I'm safe here, but we do still have to just be cautious. And I'll be honest with you, virtually every video that I post, I show to my Egyptian friends, and I go, "Is this like? What do you think? Is this cool? Am I good to do this?" Like I seek counsel from other people on these items because I'm a foreigner here. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things and not causing more harm than good. So because now I have a lot of other people are starting to utilize my platform. I'm letting them use my platform for these whole things. I don't want to lose that. It's been very powerful here. So it is what it is, man. And sometimes, honestly, we're just too damn busy working for me to make videos. Like I get home and I'm freaking exhausted, and I don't make videos. The Wi-Fi is not great here. It's noisy as hell. I have to find a quiet place to record. So, it is what it is, man. So
yeah,
I
by the way,
post as much as I can. Yes, I'm still in Egypt. I'm here in Cairo.
just for
So.
protocol, I forgot to do this. I mentioned the recording, and I'm supposed to ask others before I agree to post it online. Are you okay with me posting the video? I'm assuming you would
Oh
be.
yeah, sure. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care,
Okay,
man. You're,
that's
I trust you totally. No worries. Yeah, one lady from the UK was arrested for TikTok stuff. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, man. So,
yeah, and the onslaught of censorship in the United States, I think, is something that most people are sort of, and they just can't believe it. It's like we're supposed to be the beacon of freedom. We have a First Amendment, but somehow these privately owned companies, who are now the cornerstone of communications, it's like the new public square, and yet the companies have a lot of discretion. And by the way, there was a case held that put pressure on the Biden administration to stop doing these things to interfere with these various social media companies. They appealed it to the Supreme Court after a lower court judge told them to stop it.
mhm.
And the Supreme Court, being stacked with all these pro-corporate, pro-state, lackeys, overturned it so that now they have a legal right to do whatever they want as far as pressuring these social media companies. I don't even know if TikTok is doing things on their own with their own staff or whether it's pressure from outside or some comment. We don't know. All I know is I can see the changes that are occurring with regards to the reach that my videos have, that my lives have, and I'm sure Quinn's recognized the same thing. Quinn has a much larger following than I do, but the reach that we used to get, I used to get 10, 15, 20,000 views on a video just like that. And now I'm lucky if I get 2,000, which is a
Oh
big
yeah,
difference.
yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yep,
So,
absolutely.
and then
What do we
same in history.
expect from the
When,
court
when were the
tomorrow?
people doing this? When were the people doing the censoring ever the good guys? Just think back in history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
it's pretty bad. So if we have any other questions coming in, let's answer those. Otherwise, we want to let Quinn get some sleep because I know he's super busy and every ounce of sleep he can
I'm
get,
good. I'm good. Yeah.
batteries.
Yep.
That's cool. And by the way, thank you so much for being here, Quinn. I know it's been a little while since we've done
Yeah,
lives, and
man.
it's
I
not,
missed
it's not
you.
because
Yeah.
it's not because Quinn wants to not come on. Believe me, he's willing to give of his time. It's just that the higher priority right now is to give it to the help we can do for people of Gaza.
Yeah, and it's mostly like it's you still have my jacket. Someone says, "I still have your jacket, Quinn." Ah, give that back. Uh, yeah, and a lot of it is just the noise here, dude. This is the noisiest city I've ever lived in my life. Like the noise here is constant, and it's hard to get on live. It's hard to get on video, and the Wi-Fi is not very good either. So it's tough to do, and then I'm busy, so I just don't do it. So anyway.
By the way, somebody said is Chip still in Egypt? So maybe there's a misunderstanding. I'm not in Egypt. Quinn is in Egypt. He's near Cairo. I'm on the eastern seaboard of the United States, about an hour from Washington, D.C. So that's my general area.
Oh, I know what
Speaking
you're
of
talking
which,
about now.
speaking of Washington, D.C., this is sort of a nice segue. So I don't know if you saw, Quinn, but there was a big march for Gaza in Washington where I went to. Speaking of losing your
Yeah.
anonymity, as I was going through the crowd, I must have been stopped by 150 different people that were just saying, "Hey,
Right.
Chip, how you?" I'm like,
Hey,
"Hello,"
Chip. Yeah,
that whole thing. Like we're like your old friends, right? It's kind of interesting. People how they come
yeah.
up.
And it's so nice to meet people. Honestly, I love meeting people, but it's hard because you can't you can't go there somewhere without brushing your teeth or putting your clothes on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really funny. I really feel now for not that any, I wouldn't use the word celebrities. Like my neighbor said, "Hey, you're TikTok famous," but that's a different kind of famous, right? But people who lose their anonymity, you wouldn't imagine how valuable that is until you don't have it anymore. So for those of you who don't get bothered,
Yeah.
just enjoy that because it's a little different when you have to be thinking about that as part of your day-to-day movement. It's just a different thing, you know. Please let's connect and have a video of my friend Gaza seeking help. Yeah, we can listen. There have been a lot of people reaching out. I'm sure Quinn has had this for, please promote my GoFundMe. Please listen, it's very difficult for us without doing our due diligence, just because we have a responsibility to do the right thing, to immediately say yes to these type of requests. However, if we have time to begin the process of doing the proper due diligence and vetting, sure, we want to do good. And if this particular campaign or whatever is going to do the most good or more good than what we've already put in place, absolutely. But we do have a limited bandwidth for what we can promote because then it kind of dilutes the value of the few that we found that are good. So just keep that in mind when you make the request that we're not ignoring yours. It's just that we can only manage so much at one time.
Yeah, so someone says, I'm in Cairo. How can I help? The biggest thing you can do is go join our WhatsApp community called Project Community, and you can join the Cairo group, and we'll put you to work. That'd be awesome. So somebody else asked a question. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, how do we vet the NGOs? So basically what we're doing is we're just going and meeting with them and asking them the hard questions like what do you do? What does this cost? Are there any admin fees? This and that. They're basically just getting all of the documents. And if they're not giving you those, then they're probably not legitimate. That's what we're finding. So we're trying to find people who are actually doing good and are not overcharging for that. And that's what we feel really comfortable with what we found. So yes, we do have a group in the US. Basically, the Project Humanity group is really simple, guys. I haven't really publicized this yet. We're still getting it rolling with the different countries. But basically, we have a group here in Cairo, and then that has then spread to different areas, people in different countries. I think we have 17 countries now. We're going to be adding more as we put more structure to this. But yes, we have a group in the US. We have a group in France, Jordan, whatever, all of them. So you can join us there and help us by just going to the link in the bio and clicking the Project Humanity group, WhatsApp groups, and join. And that's a great way to get in touch with me. I very rarely answer DMs or even see DMs. But if I'm active in those groups, it's the best way to get a hold of me is on WhatsApp. So, yep, love to have you. Hi from South Africa. Laka laka.
That's really good. Yeah, there's a lot of outrage around the world right now about what appears to be indiscriminate bombing of people in the Gaza Strip. Obviously, the Israelis have decimated and destroyed most of northern Gaza, making it uninhabitable. There's probably about 1.7 million people who live in Gaza who have nowhere to go. Their possessions are mostly gone. They've been squeezed down in towards the south. Now there's regular bombings taking place. I just saw this morning that another 167 people were unalived, with many more injured. I saw the actual photographs of the horse-driven carts pulling people towards the hospitals, many of whom obviously didn't survive. The people that do survive, this is the other thing to think about. If you get very, very drastically injured, close to dying, think of the conditions you have to go. You're being laid on a floor in a hospital that's only partially functioning, with no proper medical aid, no anesthesia for those who need to have things, removed from their body. Imagine that for a second, that you come into a hospital, you're dazed, confused, dirty, covered, you're bleeding, you're on the floor of someplace, it's total chaos, and a doctor comes to you and says, we need to take your leg off, and this is going to be the toughest thing you've ever experienced in your life. Just imagine that for 1 second. Just try to think of what that must be to experience. For me, it's unthinkable. So how do you feel about some of those things, Quinn? Some of the suffering and the tragedy that's going on there?
I mean, it's appalling. Literally, it's debilitating to think about it. I can't imagine. And I guess my biggest thought on it is like, what the hell are we doing? And how can other people not see this? How can people not understand that this stuff is never okay. Like, how can there be anybody that is still supporting Israel in this genocide? It's just unbelievable to me. And someone's bringing up the Nazis. Yeah, it is like that. It's like we ask ourselves all the time, like, how did this happen? Why did no one stand up? Well, I mean, now's the fucking time. Like, have you asked yourself, what would I have done back then? What are you doing now? Like, it's like this. I'm telling you, this moment in the world will go down. The Jewish people were previously known for the Holocaust. I grew up around tons of Jewish people, tons of friends, everything. We grew up with the Holocaust first and foremost in our minds all the time. Never again, never again, never again. We thought, why didn't people stand up? Why did this happen? What, right? They are now going to be known for genocide. And it's unfortunate because it's the specific Zionist government and the Zionist Jewish people who are doing this to the rest of the people that are not. They're simply Jewish, right? It's unfortunate because they're going to ruin it for everybody. They have ruined it for everybody. Like, Israel will now be known for its genocide of the Palestinian people. That's it. That's what the history books are going to say in the future. It is what it is. But it's absolutely fucking appalling, man. And I'll tell you this, like, as far as what we see going on, like in the beginning, when I first got started in this whole thing, I was just like, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be killing innocent people. That's as far as I went. We shouldn't be killing innocent people. Stop killing innocent people. Like, ceasefire. Let me tell you where I'm at right now. I want the absolute fucking, like, the state of Zionist Israel gone. And I'm not saying kill them all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not advocating. I'm saying it needs to be dismantled completely. 100% dismantled, one state solution, period. Any of the people who are not genociders are getting along, period. That's it. I accept nothing else. I accept nothing else at this point. They need to be held accountable for what they've done. There needs to be war crimes tribunals, and also for fucking America. It's no longer good enough to just have a ceasefire. People need to be held accountable. And Zionism needs to be destroyed, gone and destroyed, 100% and held accountable for what they have done here. There is absolutely no way that the world should stand up and accept what has happened and just have Israel say, oh, well, we're going to stop now. Fuck that. You're going to be held accountable, period. And I know most of the world has been fighting this, agrees with me on this. We need accountability for this, not just let's not ever have it happen again. Serious fucking accountability. People in jail, people tried, like war crimes, fucking tribunals, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in fact, I'm in a lot of the lives. I try to go in and respectfully join some of the ones that are very pro-Zionism or pro-Israel. And of course, it never works out because I did a video about this recently about how rude and condescending, and they start to attack you personally. They question your motives. You know, it's the worst and listen, I feel badly for them because it makes them look mean and not open to any information. They believe what they believe and no one else can possibly have anything. They're completely one-sided and they can't separate their identity from their connection to this state, this ethno-state. To get back to the word indiscriminate, I think this is an important thing. We know that what's happening with the ICJ tomorrow, it's all about intent. You have to prove intent. It can't just be collateral damage, because that does happen in combat, right? We know that's the case. But it doesn't happen this way. If you're in an urban area and a family inadvertently gets hit by a falling building or whatever, that's collateral damage. What's not collateral damage is claiming on the one hand you're going after militants or T-words or however you want to call them, and at the other hand, knowing they're primarily underground and dropping tens of thousands of pounds of massively destructive bombs that do nothing but destroy buildings and blast people to smithereens, and then somehow claim it's a human shield situation. So here's how bad it is. And this really, I couldn't believe, this surprised me. President Joe Biden, for all of his flaws, his self-professed Zionism and all that bullshit, He said out loud he warned the Israelis, you must stop the indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas. That's the U.S. president saying that publicly to the world. Now, that's a big, bold statement. I never thought I would hear them say that because of how they're dealing with the Israelis. But that just goes to show you how ridiculously, blatantly obvious it is to a third grader that these people are just bombing the crap out of civilians and then somehow trying to rework the narrative around it that it's collateral damage. So everybody sees it. And that's the only thing that's come out of this. I don't know how you feel, Quinn, but the way I look at it is, as tragic as this has been and continues to be, the sacrifices that are being made right now are different than in the past, which have been horrific in their own right. But what's different this time is the eyes of the world are, one, heavily focused on the situation, which rarely was the case, unless it was a quick little incursion into Gaza, which is horrific in its own sake. But more people see the truth of what the Israeli/Zionist regime does in how it metes out its terrible policies and practices in such a way that people aren't buying the story anymore. They're like, listen, you're saying one thing, but I'm seeing another in real time through TikTok, through Instagram, through other social media. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's an accurate observation?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely accurate, and I think there's a couple of things that are contributing to that. Number one, I think the world just saw us go through Trump. And we saw how a leader gaslights people and lies and gets this cult following and this and that. And so I think this time when we saw Netanyahu, because he's spoken to Americans many times, but we saw Netanyahu, we go, that kind of sounds like the kind of shit Trump does. I think we paid attention a little bit more and we said, maybe there's something more to this. We started investigating a little bit. Number two, you have social media. Like the fact that the wars are being fought on TikTok now, like the Ukraine war, this whatever. Like there's social media that it's like really getting it out there, right? So I think that is like a really, really important part of what is happening as well, as we're seeing the whole thing on social media, right? And it's awful what we're seeing. And so even though it's been awful for 75 years, now we're finally seeing it, and we're waking up to that, and we're saying, fuck, enough is enough, man. And one of the things that we're seeing is we're seeing the Palestinian people, and specifically these people that are in Gaza, they're literally inspiring the world. They are inspiring the world with their hope, with their resilience, with their faith in God, with their even they're smiling, they're laughing sometimes and dancing and playing with each other. And I mean, these people are the most resilient, beautiful people on earth, and they're inspiring the whole world. And that's, I think, the biggest difference is that we're finally, like, I don't think I knew anybody from Gaza before this, and now I know hundreds and hundreds and see thousands and thousands. Like, these people are a light that is shining in this darkness. And I just hope that we can fucking fix this before all of them are massacred, because they're beautiful people. Like, and what they're doing is, we're not freeing Palestine. Palestine's freeing the world. And I think literally it's going to change everything. It's going to change all the rest of the stuff that's going on, around the world. That's because this stuff's happening all over the world, right? Sudan, Congo, whatever. But these people are inspiring so many people. And yeah, someone says they're teaching the world true meaning of courage and resilience, and amen to that. Amen to that. So to me, it's changed me just dealing with these Palestinian people, living with these Palestinian people. I work with them every day here. And they are the most beautiful and resilient people, I've met. Honestly, they're very, very inspiring. So I think it's going to change the world. I really do. I lost your sound. I don't know if anybody else can hear you, but
I did a video about this. Thank you. I always forget to do that because I don't want to make background noise. I wanted to let everybody know, though, I made a video about this feeling like a different chapter, like we've sort of turned a corner as far as awareness and international mindset shift with C19. the Ukraine war and as well as this conflict, it sort of shifted the balance of people's consciousness in such a way that, it's just a different chapter coming up. I did want to mention one thing, to be fair, because I know there's some people that typically come into these types of lives who see this differently, maybe from the Israeli perspective. So I want to clarify a couple of things just so people know where we're coming from. I can't completely speak for Quinn, but I believe he feels the same as this. So let me lay this out there first of all. So I often talk about this. If the parties were switched, literally, if there was an Arab nation that had been carved out of historic Palestine under the guide of a foreign power who had a mandate, and it were Jewish folks who lived in an area that were then displaced because of the changes that took place at no fault of their own, especially given their historic mistreatment and marginalization in other places throughout the world throughout the years, and they were then further dispossessed of their land and treated the same way. They periodically fought back because they wanted to resist, i.e. the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, legitimate to resist oppression and occupation and subjugation and exploitation. And then later they did something that was even more damaging. They had a political fragmentation between their groups. Some believe they should be more resilient, some believe they should be more conciliatory, and therefore they attacked, and it really upset the Arab nation. And then they started doing this horrendous, disproportionate response, painting it and trying to go after the militant Jewish people, but really, in fact, unaliving 25, 30,000 Jewish civilians. I would be equally critical of the behavior of the Arab government vis-a-vis the dispossessed people. No differently than it is right now. It just happens to be Jewish Israelis under the Zionist movement that are driving the conflict. It could be Ethiopians and Eritreans. It's not about the parties, or it's not about the parties or the players. It's about the power dynamics and the behavior that's the criticism is levied towards. One more thing, and then I'll turn it over to Quinn. In terms of a Jewish homeland, I'm not necessarily against it. I think ethno-states are kind of hard to justify because they are just on their basis exclusionary to people in society, and it just becomes a monolith in terms of the mindset of the majority over the minority. So having said that, and people always say, well, they're Arabs that live in Israel and they're doing just fine. Well, people say that about America. There's some black people that rise through power, so they're, quote, doing just fine, or we had a black president, so all that nothing could be further from the truth. One final thing, in terms of the changes that people like me and Quinn and others, especially Palestinians, desire, it's not about harming Jewish people. Most people are in favor of a safe place for anybody who's been dispossessed over time, just like we're advocating for Palestinians. It's no different. It's the same dynamic. The question here is, was it reasonable and fair, given what went down before and up to 1948, to the people that got the short end of that stick? Because if you put yourself in their shoes and it was your family to whom that happened, how would you have felt? So when they say from the river to the sea, which, by the way, Netanyahu recently said that they want security and management from the river to the sea, and when he says it, it's just considered policy, but when Palestinians say it, it's considered genocidal. That's obviously ridiculous.
You know why? You know why it is? It's because when you say we want to be free from the river to the sea, and you say that to someone who believes in genocide, they think you want to genocide them because they're evil. But the Palestinians don't mean that. The Palestinians don't mean we want to be free from the river to the sea, and that means massacring all of you. They don't mean that. They literally mean what the word means. We want to be free. That's it. But these Zionists believe that this is like some evil statement that means they want to go kill all the Jews. That is bullshit. That's bullshit. The only people who think that are the ones who would resort to killing everybody to get what they want. I mean, when Netanyahu says it, he means like literally he wants to get them all. He wants to fucking kill them all and get them out of there because he's an evil son of a bitch. When a Palestinian says they want to be free from the river to the sea, they are literally just saying they want to be free. If I said I want freedom, does that mean I want to kill somebody? No, it does not. It's ridiculous, man. Like, fuck these guys. Like, it's just complete bullshit. Like, of course they want to be free. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with that statement. From the river to the sea, we will be free. Of course. You know?
Yeah, the other thing is...
Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Those are good points. You get emotional. Listen, what we're seeing is pretty horrendous. So, the words never again, which apply to the Holocaust. Some people from Israel believe that what happened on the 7th, and it was horrific, by the way. No one can deny the fact that it's a big punch in the gut and even more so to people who are surprised by this. And I empathize with their family members, the hostages, those who were civilians who had no part in the combat, who got caught up in it and were harmed or unalived. I'm with you 100%. None of that should ever happen. That same logic has to apply to both sides, though, thinking from that vantage point, fair is fair.
Absolutely.
But one more thing. As far as the establishment of a safe place for Jewish people to be, there were other things bandied about when Herzl started the movement and then Chaim Weizmann and others took it over. And there were different things thought about. There was a place in Uganda that was considered. There was a place in Argentina. And more accurately, think about this. The most anti-Semitism historically has occurred in Europe. And what happened with the Holocaust occurred in Europe. The question would be, in fairness, why wouldn't the Europeans have some sort of debt to the Jewish people for the amount of anti-Semitism and the acts of the truly genocidal acts of what happened during World War II, obviously, because the magnitude was literally the most we've had in modern history. Why wouldn't they be carving out some of their territory to provide as reparations to what had happened? Why did another group of people get dispossessed? So one last thing. For those who are still wanting the hostages to be released. And by the way, one thing before I say that, I'm going to shut up and let Quinn talk because we're here to hear Quinn, not me. But I want to say this for context.
It's a good conversation.
On 10/7, there is a lot of confusion. One, in terms of how it happened, like why was it that one particular day, given the holiday and the limited, troop presence? Why did it happen at a very guarded point in the Israeli security system? There's a lot of questions there, right? And what did it serve potentially to have that happen? One more thing, and then in terms of what happened that day during the attacks and the response by the Israeli military, we don't have clarity as to, one, whether the most serious atrocities being alleged actually occurred. People are saying we have the video, we have the testimony, quote, trust us. But there's a long-standing history of the Israeli officials and the IDF lying to the public. We found out about the 40 babies, which was a reporter who asked somebody in the kibbutz, and they said this happened. They just repeated it. Then it got amplified. It went worldwide and global. And then on page 17, sub paragraph 4 of the newspaper, they go, "Oh, our bad. We don't have any evidence."
Yeah, our bad. Yeah, exactly.
This has been a repeated practice. We know about Hasbara. We know about the guide to have conversations. We know about the Wikipedia group that gets together to try to edit Wikipedia posts. There's a very proactive management system the Israelis use to try to direct narrative control so that things they do that are indefensible become somehow defensible within the language that's used in the stories that get put out. What do you think about that, Quinn?
Here's what I think. I think that this is all a very valuable discussion, and I've had many of these discussions over this time period. But at the end of the day, once you cross a line, I don't give a fuck what happened in the past. Like, I could walk into this situation right now and know nothing of the history of the Palestinian people, know nothing of the history of the Jewish people, of the Zionists, nothing. I can literally look at it objectively, and I can see that bombs are dropping on fucking children and massacring children and are massacring women and are massacring innocent people, and I can say, the person dropping the bombs is wrong. Period. I don't need to know anything else at this point. When you have blown up every hospital in the area, you have destroyed over 300 schools, you have blown up every university, you have blown up records offices, you have blown up museums, you have blown up infrastructure. Like, this is complete fucking bullshit. I don't need to know the history at this point. I can look at this and I can say, what the fuck? That is wrong. It should stop. Period. I don't need the history at this point because the Zionist Israelis are literally perpetrating evil actions every single day. When you are killing hundreds of journalists and you are blacking out things, you're wrong, period. I don't care if you were fucking motherfucking Teresa before then. What you are doing now makes you evil, and it needs to absolutely fucking be condemned by everybody who has a shred of humanity in their body. Period. We don't need history at this point. Stop the fucking evil now. Period. That's it. Let's sort out the history later.
Yeah, and in terms of the NES, I think when a lot of people who are Jewish, both in Israel and the United States, when they hear language like you and I are using during this discussion, and they hear things like from the river to the sea, or that the Zionist entity has to be removed, and that that whole thing needs to shift, the first thing that comes to mind is a very defensive reaction like, hey, that's our only safety net for our people. And how dare you question the fact that, one, we are historically granted the land from the King of David to presence by God as we understand it. And two, that we have a right to be safe because where else can we go? There's all these other Arab nations. We have this one little sliver of land that's Israel. And here's the problem with that, though. It wasn't your land at the time it was taken. It was given through, some was purchased by rich people, granted, but most of it came by the establishment of the state of Israel, which, by the way, was lobbied for heavily by wealthy people who went to the British. There was all sorts of backdoor deals, and they were able to get it done. And then it got approved by the U.S., again, a very pro-Zionist country, unfortunately, from my perspective. And this happened, and bad things happened to others. So that's never going to go away. And as long as a country, for whatever it wants to justify it as, chooses to occupy and oppress another group of people, regardless of how you want to say it. You may say it's for your security. You may say you deserve the land. Whatever you say, it is more than natural for some sort of resistance movement to build. I'll just go back to the colonies in the United States. When the British occupied the eastern seaboard of the United States and subjected the local residents to their policies, their taxation, their brutality, their enforcement of the British way, people didn't like it. No one likes to be controlled by others, especially if they were there first, right? They were there first. The British then came and occupied them. Therefore, they wanted to be free from under that occupation. That same mindset, that same set of feelings that is very similar pervades the Palestinian people. The only difference was the agreement of how to respond to that pressure. There was a fragmentation politically between Gaza and the West Bank that happened, and it was very violent, no doubt. There is inefficiency and corruption in the leadership structures of both Gaza and the West Bank. Welcome to the world. Every single government has those same attributes. So the fact that money has not gotten where it could ideally be is not germane, given that it's congruent in all sorts of places. So it can't be used as an argument to deflect from the core of what we're talking about. Now, I will say this. I understand from the Israeli perspective when they hear people from the H group make inflammatory statements that are indeed anti-Semitic. I condemn those statements 100%. I also condemn the statements made by Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich and others within the Israeli government who say the same exact thing about Arabs and Palestinians. So there, check, neutral, okay? So it's the intent of a group of people to harm another group if you perceive that is the case. Read the updated 2017 charter. That language officially as part of the platform has been eliminated and replaced by one that talks about the necessity to get rid of occupation and subjugation of people, not just in Gaza, not just in the West Bank, but globally. And they talk about the struggle for liberation for all peoples, including their own. And they say that while you're going to do that, resistance is not only justified, but it's allowed per international law. It's expected and it's permitted. So my point to the Israelis is this. I know you have security concerns. Let's say, for example, the H group has decided in their new charter, hey, we get it. This entity is here. We probably, from a pragmatic standpoint, it's not going to go away, even though we think it should. But because of the political dynamics, the U.S., etc., it's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon until that dynamic changes. So we're willing to accept a two-state solution, but give us autonomy. Get the hell out of the territory that you took in 1967 illegally, UN Resolution 242. People who don't know the history of that, the Israelis bombed the Egyptian Air Force, the Syrian Air Force, because they saw military exercises in the Sinai and then made the claim that they're going to be imminently attacked. Therefore, they said they can preemptively do these things because they were threatened. Now, the U.S. said this about weapons of mass destruction in the state of Iraq. Turned out to be a bullshit claim. So did the one with regards to the military exercises. People are allowed in their own sovereign country to do exercises. That's why we have what's called borders. Okay, there was no imminent invasion, and many scholars view what happened in 67 as an excuse, a false pretext to utilize, just like we hear the human shield thing. It's a bullshit argument used to substantiate illegal and basically war crime behavior, and they moved in and captured all the territory up to the Jordan River, the southwestern portion of Syria, the high grounds that are very strategic called the Golan Heights, and they took all of the Sinai. Now, subsequent to that, they had a peace deal with the Egyptians to allow Egypt to recover the Sinai in return for security guarantees, and also to deal with the Rafah border crossing, etc. But if you look at what's happening here, all the world sees through that lie. Everybody but maybe the U.S. and Israel. And the U.S. provides political cover every time the international community tries to come together and do something to rectify these things, the U.S. steps in and vetoes it as a permanent member of the Security Council. So they make it
It's
politically
got to
impossible
change, man.
for
It's
a,
got
for
to
a
change.
for a
So,
peace. Everyone's trying to resolve this peacefully. The so-called deals that the Israeli quote gave the Arabs, we gave them peace 5 times. Bullshit. Every single agreement that was put forth included Israeli control over economics and military and border movement. That's not autonomy. And they could have no military, no internal security. Everything is about control from the Israeli standpoint. I understand the security desires. It makes perfect sense. But you can't have your boot on somebody's neck in perpetuity for your own reasons and not give them autonomy. You don't have the right to do that. And that's what international law says. And Israel claims they abide by international law while they flaunt it 24/7, 365. Your thoughts, Quinn?
yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. And I have to say, like, for me, this is all intellectual at this point, and I like that stuff, as you know. But I'm done with it for right now. I'm done with it for right now because for me, it's just muddying everything up. At this point, again, I'm not interested in history lessons. I'm interested in like literally stopping the genocide that is happening right this very minute. Like right as we've been in this live, people have died. Like lots of people have died while we've been on this live. For me, I can talk about history later, but right now, I want 100% of people to condemn what is happening right now. And if you are not condemning it, then I condemn you because you are complicit. Period. Like, period. The world needs to rise up and literally condemn what is happening right this moment and focus only on this, period. Saving these people, stopping the genocide, and holding these fucking people accountable who are doing it. And then we'll have history class later. We'll dialogue about 75 years of this. We'll dialogue about what happened. We'll dialogue about where we should do this and what we should do. Right now, we have to stop Israel from genociding Palestine, period. And to me, it's the only thing worth talking about. It's I don't want to go into the rest. I want to like everybody to scream at the top of their lungs to stop killing all of these people. Period. And I think I think it's working. I think that slowly and surely that's what's working. The world, listen, lots of the people that are supporting the Palestinians right now don't know the history. They literally just know that innocent people are dying every day and that it has to stop, period. We'll sort the rest of this shit out after that. In my opinion, that's where I'm coming. And you know me, I love history. I love dialoguing about this stuff, but it's so important right now, I think, to just keep the conversation simple. Stop fucking killing people, period. And hold these people accountable that are doing it. You know, that's where I'm coming from.
No, I totally agree. And the alarming thing is because Netanyahu has basically his situation is so untenable for him politically and personally that if this does stop, he's cooked. He's not only out of office, but he's probably forget about the charges. If let's just assume he does get convicted in the ICJ, which is possible, they're not going to be able to get him unless they can physically get him out of the country. So, but politically speaking, he has charges against him for massive corruption from taking bribes. So if he weren't in office, he'd probably go to jail for whatever time he gets convicted for. So he doesn't want it to stop for the worst of selfish reasons. Plus, he's sort of one of these fanatical, I call it rabid Zionism, where they just want to push for what they want, regardless of consequence to others. So there's a lot of reasons why this wants to continue. The U.S. is probably putting pressure on them behind closed doors because it's just become so outrageous.
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
And the question is, how far are the Israelis going to take this, and how far is the world going to let them take it? We've already seen the Houthis respond with both missiles, which have unfortunately been shot down by the Iron Dome. Unfortunately, it has been. And then, of course, they've been blocking some of the shipping from Israeli ships and others, which would get goods up into the Mediterranean, which has been a big interruption.
And I love their
Brits have
attitude.
responded to that. So
Gotta say, man.
it's unfortunate that it's intent. We talked about politics for the different Arab leaders. It's a no-win situation for them, even though it's morally the right thing to do. It would be devastating in many cases, both politically and economically. Just look at Turkey; they're a NATO member. They got their hands tied behind their back. They want to do something, but they're part of NATO, for God's sakes. How are they going to be able to talk their way through that with their quote allies? So it's a mess. It's not fair, but I agree with this. This needs to be rectified. Those who've been doing it need to be held to account. And, it just needs to stop. Like Quinn said, the number one thing is stop, get in aid, work towards the next best step that can be put in place. So what do you think is going to happen?
I have got to get moving, buddy, because I got my next thing starting here. But we'll do this again for sure. I'll try to get on more and be with you and answer some more questions. So I'm starting to have things wrap up, so I'll have some more time as we get these projects rolling. And anybody who's on, if you want to help, go to the link in my profile, join the WhatsApp group that's there. We've got people working there. And then also you can start donating to our aid trucks that we're sending in, which are getting there in about 3 days. So please help us out with that. We'll be packing those and we'll show you everything as we bring those in.
I want to mention one last thing before you go, Quinn. Quinn has would you like me to announce your website to people? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I haven't done anything to update it because I've been too damn busy, but I'm going to in the next couple of days. But right now, everything's in the WhatsApp groups and just on the link in the profile. And then we'll have more stuff coming up on the website and so on and so forth. Yep.
One last thing. I want to tell people that on Quinn's website is Quinn the Eskimo Rocks. QuinnTheEskimoRocks.com. And about two things down on the list, there's something you can do called Letters from the World. And even though they may not be allowed in by the Israelis, they were going to print them off and send them in. You can write a heartfelt letter to someone in the Palestinian territory, in Gaza, and let them know that somebody from outside cares, especially those of us from the United States and the West. It's really important. Now, they may not make it into Gaza if the Israelis won't allow it, but Quinn is planning on putting together a book of the most heartwarming ones among them, and that way we can sell that book to bring more money.
Well, and digitally, they're gonna make it in there because we're giving the whole thing digitally to a Palestinian organization. We're also able to share those with people here who are displaced Palestinians here in Cairo. We're going to be putting those into the care packages that we're making for them too, as well. So yeah, but I've got to run. I have people waiting for me.
Good to see you.
But we'll do this again. Always good to see you, brother. And stay on me. We'll get back here. We'll do this again.
Much love. Take care, my friend.
Appreciate you all.
See you soon. Yeah. Wow. What a great guy, and what a great time to have him on as far as a guest, because we haven't seen each other in a while. So that was really fun. I do want to let people know, if you came in midway or later, all of this has been recorded and it's going to be uploaded very soon after we finish the live today up to my YouTube and my Rumble channel. If you don't know how to get there, go to my link in my bio. It says Linktree Chip Barnes. Either click on that. If you're outside the US, they've removed that clickable link. I've written the characters Linktree Chip Barnes in my bio. You just have to type that into a web browser and hit enter. It'll take you to the same place. YouTube and Rumble, everyone knows YouTube. Rumble is similar to a YouTube type of site. It just has a little less censorship, which a lot of people are taking advantage of now. So I really want to say thanks. By the way, I want to answer some more questions. There's been somebody waiting in the guest queue literally forever, Hafid. I want to bring them in. I need to change the arrangement though, because I think I need to do that through the settings. Give me 1 second to do that. I think I need to click on guests, and I need to change the arrangement as far as the grid. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, well, I'm learning how to do all this stuff, so let me see if I can maximize myself there. There we go. I'll just do that for right now if that's what I want to do. Okay. Any more questions coming in? I want to make sure. By the way, so people are asking about Mansour Showman, who's a journalist inside of Gaza who's been giving regular updates. He hasn't given an update in 72 hours. So we're not clear on what his status is. As soon as we hear something, I'll probably put out a video, or on my lives, I'll announce it. We just don't know. Somebody is asking, why are trucks blocked? Not all trucks are blocked. Somewhere between 50 and 200 trucks per day are typically being allowed through. Here's the choke point. Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon and Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland traveled to Gaza to kind of check things out it's nice that at least 2 American senators cared about Gaza instead of just talking about Israel, which is most of what we hear. And that what they found out is that if you don't know how the Gaza borders are set up, there's an Egyptian side with a gate, and then there's a little bit of a barrier, like a little bit of a space, and then there's a gate on the Gaza side, and Israeli troops man the area in between the gate that goes to Israel at the Rafah crossing and the part that goes into Gaza. And so what they're doing is they have these very stringent inspection and cargo lists that you're allowed to have things. And they can decide, a young 18-year-old soldier can decide one day, for whatever reason, maybe somebody looks at him funny, that they don't let the truck in. Or if there's one item on the truck that they don't like, it's not on the approved list, they take the whole truck and send it back. Or if they're not stacked a certain way, if it makes it hard to inspect, they send the truck back. You get the idea. So Senator Merkley and Senator Van Hollen said this is abhorrent. The Israelis are not allowing stuff in at the pace that needs to be allowed in. They used to get between 500 and 700 trucks a day just to feed the people and provide supplies, and they're getting maybe 50 to 200. So it's been cut down dramatically. And of course, in the northern part of Gaza, all the roadways have been destroyed. The soldiers are occupying the northern half, and the entire landscape looks like the moon. It's horrible. And all the people are homeless in the south. Now they're heavily bombarding the south, including the areas near and around Khan Yunis and even in Rafah. So there's nowhere to go. And the people are homeless. They have very little things. All their belongings are gone for the most part. They're scrapping for food. People are starving. No medical supplies. No clean water. Try to imagine that for a second. You're in a tent. I've done this before. I've lived in the military, of course, minus a lot of these other things. But I can tell you, just living out in the middle of nowhere with very little stuff sucks. You don't have clean underwear. You don't have clean socks. You don't have any of the things. You don't even have toilet paper usually in some cases. You don't have bathrooms to use. I mean, all the things that you and I normally take totally for granted as we go through our day, these people don't have. That's why I like to say, as long as I'm not in a war and in jail, which I've been there too, unfortunately, life is good. Because it's a hell of a lot easier when you can have freedom and you can use you have these amenities. I can take a hot shower today, for gosh sakes. What an amazing thing that is. People of Gaza don't have that right now. So they're suffering greatly. Their friends, families, and neighbors are being unalived. Young kids are great. That's what Eric Warsaw is here. So just one sec, Eric. I'll introduce you. Give me one sec. So anything and everything we can do, I just want to let you know, in my bio, there's some women called United Women for Palestine, UWFP, that are working to get clothing in through someone in Egypt who's a friend of theirs, who's supplying things like women's, feminine hygiene products, warm clothing for the wintertime, and other items that are desperately needed. And they are getting in among some of these trucks. So again, in my link in bio, I put it at the very top. I've made a donation, and anybody who wants to make a donation, please put in the notes on the GoFundMe the letters P as in Paul, P as in Paul, PP. And that's to tell them where the money is supposed to go, because the same GoFundMe is used for a few different purposes. So with that said, another guest that's going to come in right now, and by the way, this is somebody who I have a lot of respect for, who's been very helpful to me in my TikTok journey. And I'm a big fan of his work because I go on his live program, which he has seemingly every day for unlimited numbers of hours. He's a hard worker. He's a kind person and someone who I just genuinely like and happen to have a relationship with now. So Mr. Eric Warsaw, please come on and
What's up, buddy? I finally got my main account is finally off suspension, so I'm really happy about that today. I'm using my own account for my live show tonight, and also I got I see that you're finally off your shadow ban too, so that's excellent. Because these shadow bans, oh my gosh, they're killing us sometimes.
Yeah, so Eric, if you want to follow, is this the account you have for them to follow if they want to watch your lives or follow you?
Yep, this is my main account right here. I'm really glad to have it back because starting all over again, it's hard. It's hard starting. So yeah, I can have my normal show going tonight, normal everything.
Beautiful. So if you don't know, just let you know, Eric has a very interesting format where he brings on usually 6 guests at a time and gives them each a very, a couple minutes at a time to talk, and then people talk back and forth. There's a bit of noise. I'm just going to keep that down for a sec, Eric. Just one. you have some background noise, so I just quiet. I'll put you right back in 1 second. So Eric's format is very interesting. I do a lot of monologuing and then sort of a little bit of guest. Eric pretty much is like a host for like a talk radio show. So he brings on usually a number of guests that rotate through for about 2 or 3 minutes apiece. They have interesting conversations. Sometimes they get some pro-Israel folks on there, sometimes other conversations. And he also brings a lot of interesting, media. He brings in some videos, he brings in some articles, etc. So it's a great format. He's been doing it forever, and he's got a really big following. He usually has 3 or 4 times the audience that I have. I'm a little envious of Eric, so he's got such a good following. But that's because he's that good, and he deserves it. So let me let Eric continue to tell more about himself if he wants to.
No, I appreciate you, my friend. Yeah, it's it's been 3.5 months now, and we've grown a lot of allies in the whole process. When I first started, because I do a lot of polling, we do a lot of polls on the show, and when we first started, I tell people all the time, like, it used to be 25 to 45% of everybody in any given TikTok show was pro-Israel. 25 to 45%. And nowadays, it's 0 to 5%. After 3.5 months of just bombing a civilian population, it's really changed public opinion. And now, 0 to 5%. Israel's biggest worst enemy is the Israeli government, and that's what they're doing. Remember, a lot of the Israeli people, they're rising up against their own government. And polling in Israel even shows that 75% of their own people blame October 7th on their own government's leadership failure. Why didn't they know ahead of time? Why didn't they secure the border? Why did they take 6 to 8 hours to react to the incident? That's how that is. And there's also a good telling of the times too. When you see a lot of Jewish people in America and the Middle East that are not in our name, that group where they're riding against the genocide in Gaza. So you see a lot of Jewish people rising up against the Israel's government actions. But do you ever see any Palestinian people who are against Palestine? No. I mean, so that's also pretty telling in that aspect too. It's this past 3.5 months too, I'm really amazed. There's a lot of things that we talk about on a daily basis now, like Zionism. You couldn't talk about Zionism 4 months ago. 4 months ago, it was like forbidden to talk about Zionism on the internet. Now it's like the Great Awakening. You can not only just talk about this stuff, but people listen. People are willing to listen. They'll go on and they'll see that, like, yes, AIPAC has a lot of control. China does it too. Remember, China bribes a lot of our politicians too. It's not just Israel. China bribes our politicians. Russia does it. Egypt get caught recently. So it's amazing time. We're watching history unfold. October 7th was a big giant game changer for sure. And this is, we're all part of history right here. TikTok, remember everybody, TikTok is like the #1 platform that they blame for shifting public hearts and public opinion so much. So this is like the #1 battlefield in this, the psychological aspect for the winning of the hearts and minds of the people.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time. We talked about with Quinn, I don't know if you caught it, we talked about this being a different chapter. It just feels like we're shifting into a different chapter, different sets of thoughts, different awareness. Politically, it's amazing how life goes, and you have these different times of different, like the 1960s was a good example with people in the Vietnam War protesting that. And very similarly, I don't know why it takes conflict to wake people up, but I guess humans, we get caught in our patterns of behavior, and once something kind of shakes us out of our complacency, we tend to be the best of us when we need to be the best of us. So like Quinn said, all this talk is great, but it doesn't mean much if you're somebody with a 500-pound bomb dropping on your building or your head. That needs to stop. Let's hope that the ICJ, as a minimum first step, finds those who are guilty of these crimes, and then as far as accountability, we'll see where that takes us. But I think Eric made a great point, that Israel is now their own worst enemy, that the leadership that's carrying out their plans, whatever they really may be, is getting to a point where it's hurting their image so badly. I've talked about this with people who are pro-Israel in lives, and they say, we don't give a shit. We don't care. It doesn't matter to us. You should care, because in terms of trade and in terms of standing and moral authority, we would want to have every state being their best, and especially if you're trying to put the best foot forward for the Jewish people, because it's an ethno state, let's face it, you don't need any more ammunition for people to be anti-Semitic. And we hear people talking about the fact that they feel uncomfortable throughout the world. If they're Jewish, they go outside and they feel like they're being eyeballed differently, they feel unsafe. Guess what? Unfortunately, if you happen to be Jewish, even as unfair as it may be, you're a walking representation to others who disagree with what they're seeing, and it's a very emotional time. To say that somehow that's unfair is a little bit, it's kind of in that gray area where it's like, listen, just like if I were to walk around and if my brother had just unalived 2,000 people at the local supermarket, and I was also carrying something supporting him, I'd get eyeballed. Right? So if you support a country, right, wrong, or indifferent, you have your loyalties, I respect that. But if your country's doing horrific war crimes, which everybody seems to think except for those who support the entity, you're going to get a little bit of a funny look because you're a representation of that emotional distress that people are feeling, and they're helpless to change it. So don't whine. Do some research, learn the inner facts, and be fair and reasonable, and understand many Jewish people have broken apart from the propaganda. And even though they have a connection to Israel and they have a sort of a sympathy for Israel as far as a safe place for Jewish people, they can also see the reality of its crimes. Just like people like myself are critical of my own country, I can see what the government does. I don't hate the people in the country, but I do strongly oppose the policies because they're harmful to others. They are unfair. They are, in some cases, genocidal or murderous or whatever the case may be. And I'm not for any of that. I'm against subjugation and exploitation, no matter who the actors are. Anybody who's got a good heart and a fair and open mind should feel the same way. What do you think about that, Eric?
Yeah, even if it was my own government doing heinous, crazy stuff, I'm very patriotic, love my country, love my people and everything, but I would still ride again. Being patriotic doesn't mean you always have to back up your government no matter what your government does. Sometimes your government does things contrary to what is good for the people. And I'll take the Iraq War, for example. As patriotic as I am, I highly, highly disagree with the Iraq War. I believe we should not have been in there. We should have pulled out immediately after we found out that we were just fed nothing but lies. So, I mean, you can be patriotic, love everything, and still hate your government. And I think I see that a lot in Israel. Unfortunately, how Chip was saying, it is a common human tendency for people to lump everybody together. They'll hate the entire stereotype. And so when America invaded Iraq, a lot of Americans were blamed for our government's actions, even though we disagreed with our government. So always remember that too. Don't hate the people, because most Israeli people do not like their government. They hate their government. And the pollings is like over 70% in most cases, where they want new leadership. They want Benjamin Netanyahu to resign and everything. Well, listen, I'm not responsible for what Joe Biden does, and a lot of Americans highly disagree with Joe Biden does. So yeah, don't hate the people, hate their government, and they definitely need a regime change over there, because their own government is their worst enemy. Same thing in America. America's worst enemy right now. We have the biggest military in the world. We have the biggest everything. America's worst enemy right now is our own government. And hopefully after all this, we get a lot of change, because everyone's waking up so much. We all see things the same way. It's bound to change things. It might take a few years. Remember the protests for the Iraq War, the protests for the Vietnam War, as big as they weren't this big. So we can expect the same thing. Again, though, it took like six years or so for change to manifest from those protests. I think it'd be a lot quicker in this one, but it still might take a little bit of time. Chip, thank you so much for having me by, man. Everybody remember to tap the screen and share the live. Help each other out. We always help each other out, man, in all our videos and everything too. I always hit the heart button on all videos. Even if I don't have time to leave a comment, I'll still leave some emojis in the comment section just to help their algorithm too, if I see anything pro-Palestine. Because we're all working together on this, and Palestine, it's like it represents more than just the Palestinian people, because they're not just the ones battling Zionism. We're trying to battle Zionism too, get them out of our government, free our government of foreign influence, and we're working all together. What is going on over there affects all of us around the world. So we're all back in Palestine. It's for their benefit, it's for our benefit, 100%. Chip, thank you so much, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Yes, what a great guy. I think Eric's spectacular. Let me just get myself bigger here for a second. We have some guests that want to talk. We'll bring them in a second. Just to let you know, Eric's very humble. His show runs concurrent with mine. I'm live, just for those of you who don't know. First of all, my name is Chip Barnes. You can tell that from the name at the top. I talk about geopolitics. I'm somebody who learned about the Israel-Palestine conflict in 1989. So I was a little bit fortunate as an American. I learned it as a part of my political science class in college. One of my classmates did a presentation on the first Intifada, which took place in 1987. And yes, that makes me old. I get it. Thank you for those who are thinking that. But I learned it, and I was really confused because I was always told a different story, and I learned some different facts. And again, this starts the journey of knowledge, right? Question everything. It's fair to question stuff. So I got on social media about 3.5 months ago, right before what happened on October 7th. So I kind of lucked into this. My starting on social media just happened to coincide with something that I had learned about. And so a lot of people liked it. Unfortunately, some people didn't. From the powers that be, my account got canceled 4 times in the first 5 weeks, which is unfortunate. Luckily, I got my main account back. I had a lot of followers that got extinguished, but now I'm back up to a good number. So we're reaching people. It's not about any one person. It's about the message. So just like I talked about with Eric, my schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern time until 10 p.m. Eastern time. And then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, just like today, I usually go from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern. The reason we're going a little longer today is because we had Quinn the Eskimo from Cairo, Egypt come in. Quinn is a very popular TikToker who actually went to try to get into Gaza and raise awareness and try to help with the aid groups. He was on for quite a while. So to give a few guests a chance to come on, we're going to do that next. So just really quickly, I have a link in my bio. There's a donation link to some women that are doing clothing and other garments for people in Gaza. It is getting in, and the money is going to the right place. Someone's doing the clothing at their cost. So the most of your dollar is going to go to help the people of Gaza. Nobody's keeping money for management. It's all going in as direct aid. So I put that link there. I made a sizable donation. Feel free to do the same. And then I have some other links in my bio. I have a Twitter account that has a lot more direct information that I can't put here because, let's face it, because of that, what I told you earlier about the 4 times, I just can't do certain things. I got to be kind of careful. But there, I can be more open and honest, which I appreciate. Okay, so then there's some other links. I do record these. Every single live is recorded. So if you missed the interview with Quinn, or if you missed the interview last night with U.S. Independent Senate candidate for New York, Diane Sayre, those are already uploaded, and the one from today will be uploaded shortly. So if you missed it, just go to my YouTube or Rumble channels. They're in my link in bio. For those of you outside the United States, the link that is clickable doesn't show up. So all you have to do is type in the text. It says Linktree Chip Barnes. Type that into a browser the way it's printed, and it'll get you to the same place. If you want to help me out, which I would greatly appreciate, I'm doing this pretty much, I'm not making any money, quote unquote. I'm doing this just as a volunteer, which I love doing, by the way, because I'm advocating for an amazing cause that's much needed right now. But obviously, I got to pay bills like everybody else. So I have a Patreon, and I also have other links if you want to make a single donation. Just so you know, while I appreciate your support here through TikTok, TikTok unfortunately takes a very large chunk. They take 70% of every donation, which, it's their business. They can do what they want. Just seems a little high, and obviously I don't get much of what you donate. So I appreciate your donations, but if you can do them on the link in bio, that's even better. So thank you for that. Okay, enough about me. Let's bring on, I've been very patient. Let's bring on Hublai Khan, and then we have Maris Vitals coming on. And I got to stop in about 20 minutes, just so you know.
No worries. I want to compliment you, Chip. That was an excellent summary of the history. As rapid fire as it was, you should pluck out that history of the 48, 56, 67 wars and put it up as its own piece. A lot of good observations there. I wanted to make a note of a couple of things that might be overlooked. It's really strategic tomorrow, obviously, with the ICJ ruling coming out, and I'll mention more about like what can be done about that in a second. But I wanted to list some age groups inside Israel that people should be aware of. One is the political party Chabad Yael, which is a Arab and Jewish party. It's one of the few parties that actually has Arab and Jewish members. And Oler Kasif has actually stood up in favor of the genocide complaint, and he's in the Knesset, and they're trying to kick him out. But his party will be either under incredible fire or actually very vindicated tomorrow based upon what the ICJ says. So it's important to know his name, over Kasif, and also watch out for his party, because that's...
Can you say it a little more slowly so people can get
It's
it? 'Cause you said
Chabad
it pretty
Yael. I
quickly.
just put it in the comments.
Okay.
And that's so inside the Knesset, essentially, that's a body to watch what happens as a result of tomorrow. Second, the hostage families, they are opposed to this, basically bombing everything and essentially getting their own family members killed. We've had hostages shot directly by IDF, and they don't
Yeah.
want to see their own family die that way. So those families actually are another critical group that if they see the ICJ complaint come out in favor, they will use that as a mechanism to argue, to stop things. And there's a third and distinct group, which is the Hannibal Directive victims on October the 7th. And that's a nice way of putting it without assuming there's a false flag there.
Right.
The Nova Festival survivors, they actually have a lawsuit ongoing against the government, and they also will pick up on that and make use of it. So basically, there's three H groups right there: Habat hostage families, Hannibal Directive victims, inside Israel, waiting to basically deal with Netanyahu, essentially, at least, and maybe a deeper reform. Israel was already had a lot of internal battle over its constitution. A one state, non racist constitution could actually emerge out of that if there's enough momentum from ditching Netanyahu. So that's what's at stake right now, kind of inside Israel. As far as tomorrow, um, people confuse the ICJ and the ICC, and they shouldn't. The ICC convicts individuals, the ICJ convicts countries. The ICC is generally ineffective unless you can get someone to arrest the individual, but the ICJ is effective right away. This is the 1948 Genocide Convention set up by Harry Truman, intended to bind the United States, intended to bind Israel, a country he recognized first. And so it's important to realize that the unusually for international law, if there's a genocide finding, then the UN General Assembly has the authority, if the UN Security Council doesn't act, to act on their own. That's something kind of unique to a genocide ruling. And so the UN Security Council probably will act just in order to retain the authority. And I think if the ICJ comes out with an injunction, Netanyahu essentially is doomed. And the question is, how deep do the changes go? Now, in order to get the maximum leverage out of this event tomorrow, the release of this ruling, I think it's important for everybody, all 330 people listening, to understand that they need to pick that ruling up and read all of it. It'll probably have a majority opinion and, like most judicial stuff, a minority opinion. Even if the ruling is against an injunction, it will still be a minority opinion there outlining good reasons for an injunction. Now, if there is an injunction, then the political pressure should be maximized, but I don't think the real action is pushing your own country's politicians. I think the real action is pushing corporations. There's no corporation on the planet Earth that wants to be associated with a genocide. You pull out clips from that ruling, even if it's the minority part of the ruling, and you send that to every corporation you deal with that has any kind of supply ties or dinks in Israel. It will have an effect. If the Security Council does something, I think it becomes actually impossible to support Israel materially in this conflict. Flows of arms will become very difficult for the U.S. to keep going. The harder part comes if they refuse to grant an injunction. But courts being courts, if they refuse to grant an injunction, they probably in the factual findings will list a lot of excellent reasons for one, and then explain why the law ties their hands. So they may find actually even more damning facts if they don't grant an injunction. They may be more damning in their description of events if they find not to have an injunction. As paradoxical as that is, courts, when they aren't willing to act, very often hand a strong factual basis to the losing side. So you're going to want to read the factual findings, and you're going to want to forward those because they have tremendous authority coming from the ICJ. And
Can I ask you a question real quick?
yeah, shoot.
You obviously seem like somebody who has your finger on the pulse of this. Thanks for sharing it with us. Would you mind, you're going to do the reading, I'm guessing you're going to read it, and then would you mind coming back in with your best summary of it once it's complete, maybe Friday night? Would that be something you could do?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay, yeah, we go
I'm
live
actually
at 8 p.m.
at 8 p.m. Yeah, I think it is. It'll probably be out there. Every lawyer in the world is waiting for this, right?
Sure.
So I may be quite late on the jump, but I think if I have a
Okay.
chance to review what a number of important jurists have said about it, then my own analysis will probably be better. From my context, I kind of look at it like an activist, right? There's been other causes where I've managed to take court rulings and turn them into activist instruments very quickly to defeat things like fracking contracts for indigenous peoples,
Yeah.
things like that. So essentially, this is another case where an indigenous people is up against a colonizer, and there's a lot of business at stake, and you need to get a court to essentially strike down the business and hold up the indigenous rights, as it were. So it's a similar kind of case to what I'm used to in that context. But the stakes here are incredible, right? It's a very, very big deal. And the three things I'm going to point out to people is if they're going to get hit with
Well,
lots of
just like, listen, I appreciate all the information, but we have to give another guest who's been waiting patiently a chance. So if you could just tie it
I'll,
up in the next few
I'll
minutes.
tie it up right now. The three things I want to make sure people are aware of is if you get criticized for focusing more on Israel than on, say, Ukraine or Congo or Sudan or something, then you should pay attention to those things, obviously, and try to end them. But I would point this out. There's no other country in the world that is in an ongoing genocidal action right now, and second, that has a secret nuclear weapons stash, which is about the most dangerous thing in the world. And I'd advise everybody to follow Emma Pike, who comments on that a lot. And third, to actually use the world's most prominent holy book as your land claim by way of attacking an indigenous people is also kind of unique. So those three circumstances, the ongoing genocide, the nature of the biblical land claim, and the secret nuclear stash, are all very solid reasons to want Israel deeply reformed now. It's much more dangerous than apartheid South Africa ever was, and our leverage to deal with it starts tomorrow. If the ICJ case is against, then you're going to want to say, look, they've thrown it back in the people's court. We're going to do boycotts ourselves. Individual countries are going to have to act because the Security Council won't, and it becomes more distributed. So
Okay.
just a tactical change based on tomorrow, but the direction will stay the same.
Awesome. Yeah, that's an excellent presentation. Hopefully we can see you on Friday because I think your point of view as an attorney will be invaluable to the discussion. So I hope to see you on Friday.
I'm a paralegal, not an attorney. I should probably say that.
We'll take that as close enough. That's good enough.
Okay, Chip. Peace
Thank you
out.
so much for coming. See you later. Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you for that contribution. I don't want to make Maris Vitals wait any longer. You've been very patient. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, Chip, hi. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you for what you are doing. I wanted to share my little experience and knowledge, and it's about, let's say, the things how you, let's say, in America, as American citizens need to act. Let's say, it's a time when you, let's say, go only, let's say, each 4 years to the to voting. It's not really work as it's necessary. It's time to write directly in written form that let's say about how the tax money need to be spent and so on. So it means that it's as it's let's say the war in the Gaza, it's mainly it's founded by your tax money. It's necessary to let's say from your side to write official letters from you as a beneficiaries that how that you are disagree to that your tax money is spent such way, because if you are waiting only from the politicians, it means, let's say, that you are giving your vote away, and you are, let's say, silenced for the next 4 years. Let's say it's time for you to act directly, let's say, for you and for other activists who are understand that it's not work such way, that it's let's say the time when let's say only politicians, let's say, decided in your let's say for you the questions. It's let's say the time when people worked in the, let's say, crop fields and so on. They do not have time to make decisions, but now it's something we are in a different time. We can make the decisions directly in each day. We can all together decide how we want to live, how we want to spend our money, and so on. So you understand, yeah?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I think the point is that while we can, one of the major things we can do is like literally pester our elected officials as far as wanting this to come to an end, because obviously that the U.S. is the one force that is blocking a ceasefire. As that there have been multiple ceasefire resolutions set forth at the United Nations. The United Nations has a permanent Security Council of 15 member nations, 5 of which are called permanent, and they have the right to veto anything that comes through the UN, and the US has used that veto forever, as long as I can remember, to stop any of the resolutions that would otherwise require Israel to do what I would believe to be the right thing. So, yeah, excellent point. Thanks for reminding us of that, and appreciate you being here. Those are good points. Thank you so much. Yeah, Americans, we have freedom of speech, right? Unlike what Quinn said, he's in Egypt. He can't even say things on a live that's sort of against the government, which is, understandable. That's how things work in Egypt. Here in the U.S., we can shout from the hilltops. You can go out and stand in the middle of the street and just yell from the top of your lungs, "Hey, stop the genocide." That's our right. We can contact our elected officials in writing. We can call their offices. Again, I don't know if they're going to ignore us. Obviously, AIPAC plays a role in the money in politics, but it's what we can do. It's what we should do. I've called my elected officials, my representative, my senators. That's all I can do. Other than we can go stand in front of their houses and not make. Listen, this is the other thing we can do. I've talked about this. Nobody who's supporting this should walk comfortably, in my opinion. Not violence, but in terms of letting people know how you feel, maybe even in groups. Let's say you know that somebody lives in, like the head of AIPAC, lives in Fairfax, Virginia. Why should that person go comfortably to a restaurant with his wife or family without people letting him or her know what the hell's going on? Like, stop this crap, right? That's my point, is that those are the things we can do legally, non-violently, that we should do. Okay, we have Stephen that's been waiting patiently, and I have to finish up in 10 minutes, so we got to take 5 minutes each because we have one more guest.
Hey, Chip, it's nice talking to you. I appreciated the conversation we had at the beginning of this week. Um,
Yeah.
I know I came in a little hot and heavy, and you did help to diffuse me a little bit. Look,
Cool.
I'm all for it now. I think that the bombing has to stop. As a former U.S. Air Force munitions troop, I built these. I know what these things do, and it's time that has to stop. And I really think we need like an I-4, K-4, some kind of thing that ensures that humanitarian aid gets to where it needs to get to. Trust me, I know all the horrors behind the Rafa Gate thing, and you're right. An 18, 19-year-old kid should not have the power to make those decisions. I think they should have at least a commissioned officer there, doing that. Or what I would prefer is an international force like the UN, come in there and make sure that nothing nefarious makes through that checkpoint. I completely agree with that. But the bombing has to stop, and it's time for us as a world to say, okay, Israel, you've had your revenge, and I understand you'll argue whether revenge or reckoning was a part of it. I was, 10, 12 weeks ago, I'd have been 100% with Israel. I did. I mean, it's kind of like after post 9/11, we said, go get the bad guys and everything be damned. Well, we're well beyond that point, and we can't say that we're an honorable service unless we are saying, okay, enough is enough. Time to stop. Let's move to the next phase, which has to be some sort of rebuilding, kind of what happened post Japan, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. We had to come in there and say, okay, enough is enough. Guys, listen, we're in the rebuild stage.
Right. Okay, yeah, I agree. It's very clear that, obviously this needs to stop. It's pretty abhorrent what we're seeing, and it's gone way, way over the top. Like we talked about with Quinn, Israel is actually hurting themselves right now. They're their own worst enemy. And it may be that their leadership is this rogue group of just madmen that aren't listening to their own people for the most part and are taking this way too far. That's how I see it. And I think a lot of people who have broken from the Zionist programming see it the same way. And they're just, hey, Israel needs to have its safety and security. If because the government's going over the top, they're only hurting themselves at this point. Okay, we have one more guest. It's Keed Kwasama. Is that how you say it, Keed? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
It's Khalid, it's Sam. I was with you earlier, my brother.
Right. Yeah, I remember you came in and talked about your story very eloquently.
Yeah, I want to appreciate, to thank you. Really, I appreciate your work. And Quinn, it's very vital and it is very important. What you are doing is spreading awareness. And it's a journey of awareness for the whole world. Actually, Gaza is working on the liberation of the war, not only liberating the Palestinians, liberating the world from the social engineering has been done since the Second World War II. The United Nations Charter, the third paragraph says, we promise the next generation to avoid them the scourge of war. That promise has not been fulfilled by the major powers, especially those who are sitting in the Security Council. Actually, they are making apartheid politics inside the Security Council and the United Nations system, which rendered it ineffective in a manner that could not protect so many people, whether in Rwanda, whether in Myanmar, whether in Afghanistan, whether in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya. Now they are talking about ceasefire, ICJ. Why don't they talk about the Canadian project, R2P, responsibility to protect? Under this pretext, they attacked Libya. And people don't talk about the 25,000 killed during the raid over Libya. Mm-hmm. We are very connected, despite the fact we are from the Middle East, which is a colonial name degrading the people in the Middle East, whether in Africa or Europe or in America. As a matter of fact, I am from the diaspora, and I've been in so many countries without papers, moving from one country to another after I left Lebanon, after the PLO had to go out. And I had to stand on my feet by any means. And I studied. I became a mechanical engineer, power plants, thermal power plants, mathematician, and I'm a doctor of law. And all of these qualifications that do not qualify me to stand on my feet. Why is that? Because I'm stigmatized. I'm labeled. I remember the interview when I went to start my tenure in the university as a senior lecturer. The question I was asked, do you know how to build a bomb? And I had two choices, whether I take them to the Equality Court in South Africa, or I have to use my emotional intelligence. I said, yes, I'm a mechanical engineer. Building a bomb is a clumsy science. You don't need more than a place where you create certain pressure to the critical point it becomes explosive material. But I'm not here to blow up any wing of the university. I'm coming here to work, to transfer my skills and my expertise to somebody who needs it, and to share shaping the future of the next generation. I used to go in the lift. The white people would go out of the lift. They would look at my bag, whether it has bomb or not. It is a way how to label people. And we are, I'm telling what we are. In Gaza, under this concentration camp, we have 70% of women are university graduate. That is not in America. That is not in Switzerland. That is not in Austria. 70% of women, and you saw them, they are humble people, God-fearing people, and beautiful communities and compassion. And if you noticed that they are targeting the doctors, the journalists, the scientists, professors of universities, and blowing up the universities, the artifact, the history, the legacy.
We have
But
to
we
just
are
let you
not
know
going.
we're almost at the end of the day. We have to finish up in the next 30 seconds, okay?
Yes. What I want to say, nobody can exterminate us. History proved that. The Mughal failed in Palestine, in Ain Jalut. The Crusaders failed in Palestine, in Hittin. Nobody can conquer us, maybe for a short time. We are such people. We are such DNA, part of the human race. We are proud people, and we are humble to each other.
Okay.
Nobody
That's a
lived
great
among.
point. The resolution. Thank you for being on here. We'll take you the next time, I promise. More to come. Thank you for being here. Yeah, unfortunately, this will be going for about 3 hours, and I have a tendency to go on and on. I have to be somewhere in about 30 minutes for an appointment that I have. So otherwise, I usually keep going on as long as we have guests most days. So by the way, there were some guests that tried to get in. Either they timed out or we couldn't include them today. So for that, I apologize. For those of you who do want to come in, I'll be on again tomorrow night unless something breaks news-wise with the ICJ. I may come on earlier if there's some convictions to talk about or something to that effect. But for now, the normal schedule is 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Friday nights. That person, Khan, that came on earlier, the paralegal, I definitely want to hear more of what he has to say, especially if he can come up after the ICJ ruling and help explain it to us from a legal standpoint, because I'm not an attorney. My father was an attorney. My grandfather was a judge. His father was a judge. I was the person who disappointed the family by not going to law school. I just didn't want to do it, quite frankly. But I do want to let you know my schedule normally for those of you who want to come back. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern Time to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I go from 12 noon, usually till about 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Today was an exception because we had a special guest that came in named QuinnTheEskimo, who went to Cairo, Egypt, to try to help people get aid into Gaza. And like Quinn said, the real work is going to start when this conflict ends, and there's going to need to be the aid and the rebuilding process. That's when we're going to be most needed. So, let's hope that happens sooner than later. Obviously, doesn't look like there's an immediate end in sight right now. Just so you know, I have a link in my bio. It says Linktree Chip Barnes. So if you're interested in following me elsewhere, as I've said before, I'm able to do things on Twitter, which is now called X, that I just can't do on places like TikTok or Instagram, because if I put certain things here, not only does it get taken down, but then I get strikes. And if I do it enough times, my account gets taken down. And that's a road I don't want to go down. I've been down that road 4 times now. Don't want to do it again. So in my bio, there's a donation link for some women that have come together called United Women for Palestine. And they're doing some clothing for people. So I've vetted the link. I've made sure it's for real. It's no shenanigans. And all the money goes directly to the aid that goes in for people of Gaza. So they're making winter clothing, women's undergarments, other items that are really important for day-to-day life that we take for granted. So there's a donation link there to GoFundMe. If you do donate there, they've asked me, for the sake of accounting purposes, to put the letters P as in Paul, P as in Paul. So PP. And it stands for, I think, something to do with the women's undergarments. So make sure you do that, because otherwise they don't know where the funds are coming in from. And one group is doing this, and there are other groups using that same GoFundMe for other stuff using a different designation. So that's that. My TikTok backup account is listed in my bio. The reason that matters, if you want to follow that, it's TruthSeeker670. The reason I mention that is because when this account gets taken down, I can still go live on the backup. I've had people say, hey, where'd you go, man? During those times I got taken down. And I didn't go anywhere. I just went to my backup account. So hopefully you'll follow that. I have some unique content only on my backup account. So if you want to see some videos of me and the dog running around, which is kind of fun, her name's Ruby. There's some other stuff like that that's more personal. You can go check that out. I do want to let you know that in my link in bio, in addition to that donation link to Gaza, some people have very kindly donated to me today. So for those of you who have, thank you so much. If you ever do want to donate, you can certainly join here, which is fine. But just to let you know, TikTok keeps 70% of the donations that you make through the app here. So I think that's a little high. Good for them for making money. Go TikTok. But I have donation links at the bottom of my link tree, which I would prefer that you use if you're going to give me. There's a monthly $5 recurring donation if you want to help me on Patreon. I'm not some rich guy. I'm some guy who has lived off my savings. I'm kind of near the end on the fumes. And so any donations you can make, I got to figure out a way to make this work if I'm going to keep doing this full time. Otherwise, I might have to go out and figure some other job situation out, which I don't want to have to do. I like doing this. I think people like it, right? I think I do an okay job and people seem to enjoy it. Just speaking of which, I had a guest on last night, and this is what's kind of fun for me now that I'm sort of have a bigger presence. I can interview some more prominent people. So I had a candidate for U.S. Senate on last night. Her name is Diane Sayre, and she's running for the U.S. Senate seat in the state of New York. And I'm normally not involved in regular old politics because I think a lot of it's problematic. But in this case, if you can get somebody good in who wants to stop the wars, who wants to keep the money at home to help the people, who's for peace in general, who wants to help us become more prosperous and safe without the chance of all this crazy, regional and world war. That's why I like Diane. I've met her at different peace protests that I've been a part of. For those who don't know, I was in the Army. I fought in the first Gulf War. I was on the front line with a tank unit. And I can just tell you that there's nothing good about war. It's misery, it's suffering, it's unalivedness, it's carnage. It's just everything bad about human beings times 100. So anytime we can root for peace, I'm all for it. My government is so sad right now. I'm so sad to be a United States citizen. It's like we can't make them do anything different, and we're supporting this carnage, this genocide. It's disgraceful, and it needs to stop. So again, I'll be on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. For those of you who helped in the mods today, I think it was Lipri and others, maybe Jax. Thank you again. By the way, just so you know, when you come into lives, whether it's me or anybody else, there's ways you can help amplify it. I like other content creators, is my reach is being drastically restricted because of the way that I talk about things. So what you can do to help boost both my videos as well as my lives and other content creators you like, always, of course, like the video. Leave a comment that's more than 5 words that says something positive, like, I really liked your video or something like that. That helps boost what they call engagement. TikTok's all about engagement. I don't know much about how they operate, but that's what people tell me. Also, you can invite other people to people's lives. If you hold down the screen for a second by pressing the person's face, a list pops up of all of your mutuals and you can invite them in. So that helps get around the limitation. Normally, what used to happen when I would go live is all of my followers and a lot of people on the For You feed would get the notice. That's not happening now. A lot of my followers aren't being notified, and I'm getting none of that For You promotion. So that helps increase the reach. Unfortunately, that's necessary. I wish it weren't, but without your help, I can't reach more people and spread what I believe is, the truth as I understand it. So your help is equally important. So I want to say thank you, everybody, for spending some of the time. Finally, this is being recorded. So all 3 hours, including Quinn's interview and the conversations we've had after that, are going to be uploaded to my YouTube channel and my Rumble channel right after we finish up here. So it may take an hour or two after my appointment, but it'll be up by dinner time tonight. So if you want to go back and review it, I suggest you do. Lots of good stuff coming out of Egypt. Check it out. Finally, people have been asking me about a journalist named Mansour who gave regular updates periodically from Gaza, a very brave young man. We haven't heard from him in 3 days. So fingers crossed he's okay. Nobody knows. So we'll find out in due time. It could just be because of communication outlets. Maybe his phone got damaged. Hopefully nothing worse. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for being here. If I didn't get to your questions or your requests, I apologize. I will get to you next time. See you soon tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Unless something comes out with the ICJ, I may go sooner, okay? See you later, everybody. Have a great day.